record for 90 days. I'm sorry, am I still on?
Yeah, you're still on. That was just like the notice that it's being recorded.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so there was also some cold holding issues, some tuna salad at the cook line that was 50 degrees. There was some smoked chicken that was 65 degrees, but I was told that was, I think, made that day. So they expedited the cooling process and put on indirect contact with ice to get that cooled down within compliant temperatures below 41. I also have some inquiries about, I understand there is some smoking going on, which is okay if it's done to enhance the flavor of the food, but not okay per the code if it's done to preserve things. But I'm not sure what the functionality of that is. But also, too, if it is occurring outside, there needs to be controls put into place around the smoker itself to make sure there's access to hand washing and there's overhead protection for any food preparation areas. So it's more like, it's not like what you and I would do at our house. If we were just having a cookout in the backyard, we need to, per the code, have some controls in place if it's something that we're going to do, just to make sure that, I don't know, a portable hand sink out there, maybe like a pop-up canopy and a table set up with, to make sure. I didn't witness this process occurring. I did see the smoker out back, so I didn't cite anything pertaining to that. But I do have some, inquiries as to the specifics surrounding the use of the smoker. So there were some repeat issues. Also the dish machine. I know that we do have a new dish machine on premises that's yet to be installed. Apparently there's some issues with securing some tradesmen to do that. Also, I think, yeah, just some like debris that isn't necessary to the business. And then the IPM report also pointed out some uncapped plumbing in the basement, the same thing that I brought up in the past with sinks that have been removed in the break room. The employee break rooms were pretty much found in the same condition as I found them in the past. Overall filth and debris, and just kind of, they're telling me they're not being used, but then there's evidence of people like using them to change, and there's linen stored in there. So I'm not sure what the function. The code does require locker rooms for staff and for storage of personal articles. So it would be code compliant to have a locker room for staff, but I'm not sure what the function of those rooms are. And then also the trash storage was an issue again with open containers in the rear, standing water. I think Josh had sent me that was a text message correspondent about regrading that area so the water flows away from that area so it doesn't pond and attract pest activity. And the pest control company talked about some activity that was outside the business. So it's in our best interest to make sure that we seal any outer openings and keep doors and windows closed and screened to prevent entrance of pests. So I'll open that up. I'm sure.
Yeah,
Go
Tom,
ahead.
I guess this is Lisa. Josh, are you still on?
Yes.
Hi. So I guess I'm just curious to hear sort of your thoughts about how best to proceed in obviously rectifying all of these issues, and sort of what's your plan, and then we can, sort of discuss a proposed schedule.
Well, I sent Ellen and Tom some of the scheduled work we're having done, the grade in the trash area. I have a signed contract for that. I spoke with him today. That should happen next week, hopefully, but you never know. And then the trash, the lid on the trash was open. I apologize. I'm not sure why it was left open, but and then I'll have some guy doing some tile work as well. I believe I sent Ellen and Tom that text exchange with my tile person. He's going to come in, and I think that'll help the drains on the floor. The dish machine, which creates the water on the floor, that is getting replaced. I do have an electrician. Hopefully that'll be able to change the wiring on those machines to swap them out. Our whole staff has been serve safe trained, like requested from the board. We did hire a consultant to help us move forward over the slow July 4th weekend. We spent most of the time cleaning and organizing and taking care of some issues that Tom had brought up. And it's our number one goal is to get that old building sealed up. And, you know, we don't have a major issue with flies or mice. We had, obviously there was one caught. It's not our goal. You know, we like to run a clean restaurant. Our front of the house is Serve Safe certified. Mistakes are made during a busy service for sure. But, you know, we did bring everyone in. We taught in Portuguese and English. So everyone had their home language to get Serve Safe certified in. I believe Tom has those certifications. The person who ran the class said he was going to pass those along.
I guess,
I mean, it's our number one goal. I don't enjoy these meetings, having Tom come by and
Yeah.
do that. So it's our number one goal is to zip everything up in the bud. That's what we're doing right now. It just doesn't, I know it was May 29th. It's been, you know, 5 weeks, but some of these are big items. And then just training the staff continually with new staff. And, you know, that's our goal.
do you have a manager there full-time, Josh?
Yeah, we have a
that's really-
kitchen. Yeah, we have a sous chef or a chef. And then we have, you know, we have a front of the house manager as well.
So are they kind of, I guess, who's responsible for ensuring that this is, you know, it's a day-to-day thing. It's not just, you know, fixing things now and then not doing it. So I guess I'm just curious, like, do you have someone that's their actual responsibility on a daily basis to?
Yeah, for sure. Cleanliness and organization, definitely. Definitely, we have someone there that knows that I've gone over it with them. When I'm there, I go over it with everybody. Went over the shellfish tags. You know, I'm not sure why the tuna salad was that warm. I'm having someone come in to check all the reach-ins. All our thermometers say that they're 40 below. And so I'm having them come in and get service just to make sure that they're working properly. So, I mean, our goal is to run a clean, efficient, safe restaurant for people to dine. And I believe we are. You know, we just have some building issues that we're trying to take care of. And there's been some mistakes made that we're trying to correct. I mean, we're constantly training the kitchen staff about sanitation and safe practices.
So Josh, I guess the question is, you know, for me, as I sort of read through the details of Tom's report, there's some pieces that sort of feel independent of old building, you know, sort of chicken above lettuce, stuff like that.
Yeah, that was terrible. I felt the same way that you do and Tom did. That was just a mistake by, you know, a food runner or somebody that didn't. I mean, everyone should know that raw chicken, we have a shelf designated for raw meat. It shouldn't even be in the same area.
But so I guess the concern I have is, you know, totally sympathetic to what you guys are navigating, but also feel a responsibility to make sure to say, you know, the owner said that, you know, we will be in compliance at this point. And so I appreciate that there's sort of a lot of work, but it's also been, you know, 5 or 6 weeks now. And so I guess my question for you is, at what point can we say the system that will be in place will be resilient enough to manage busy service and do those things while kind of maintaining the standards that you want to hold the business to? You know, do you sort of say, this, because I sort of hear the solutions for the physical plant, but talk about some of the other parts of, like, you know, the paper towels or the chicken or other pieces. It's like it gets busy and X, Y, and Z happens. And I guess what I'm worried about is I haven't heard a sort of, here's a durable solution we're putting in place to make sure that that issue solved. I sort of hear the troubleshooting, but do you feel like you've got a strategy in place so that if Tom comes back in a week, you can say, yep, you know, I'm confident this is going to live up to the standards that we have?
Yeah, I mean, it takes training, it takes time. So I'd love to give you a date. I mean, you want me to say a month? It'll be perfect. I hope so. I mean, we're constantly training. I've talked to the sous chef, the chef.
I mean, I would say, like, the idea that we're saying it's okay for it, or it's not okay, but it's not intervenable, to say that there's like improperly temperatured food or there's improperly stored chicken. Like, I don't think that's a month problem. Like, I think that's something, it's been 6 weeks and we sort of need to say, you know, this is the point at which this is going to be in compliance.
Yeah, I mean, it should be in compliance now. I mean, we talked about all the issues with the whole staff. I mean, I've talked to each person individual that may have been involved with it. So I think that now all those issues with the chicken and the oysters are resolved. The tuna should be resolved. I don't know if they had just made the tuna. I don't know. That's one question I didn't follow up on with the chef that works that station.
Okay.
But everything else I've talked to the other cooks about.
Yeah, I guess I just feel like someone needs to be accountable on a daily basis. So
There is someone
happens-
accountable. There is the sous chef. There is a sous chef or chef there on a daily basis.
So do they understand that it's their responsibility, the beginning of the day, throughout the day, at the end of the day, to make sure?
Yes,
that
they are
everybody's
fully
doing-
aware.
Oh, okay, because that's the piece that I just wasn't clear on, that someone needs to be, understand they're responsible on a daily basis and be held accountable. And, like, I think it's reasonable to shoot for like, okay, it seems, like, maybe in a week that everything's gonna be ready to go. And, that if Tom does a, pop-in inspection at some point in time, we just want to put these things behind us.
Yeah, I think so. I think that is fair.
So I have a question for Tom. I noted on the repeat report, you noted that sort of item 1 on person in charge being sort of present and knowledgeable as being out of compliance as a repeat violation. What was the issue there? Were they not there? Did they not know what was going on? Like I think that's what we're sort of getting to. And I think that's what's most worrisome is that has come up again. And I just want to know what the lesion was there.
Sure. So there's a section of the code. It's called person in charge duties, and it talks about active managerial control. So the debit was, I don't feel confident that whoever the person is in charge is doing their duties according to code. And that violation is by virtue of the repeat issues and the things surrounding separation and segregation of, raw products proper stored, bare hand contact with ready to eat foods, evidence of pest activity, things of that nature. So those things are not allowed to occur in a food establishment for the code.
So it's sort of an overarching thing. There was somebody there, but it seems that for whatever reason, they weren't able to sort of enforce it.
Yes, so there was someone there who was the person in charge, the manager, who was very helpful on site within our capabilities. But just because of the repeat violations, then there was a debit because of the person in charge failure to do their duties per the code.
Okay. So I think it's going to take seeing it again and seeing that these things are these sort of day-to-day issues rather than infrastructure issues are not continually arising for us to feel confident that that's fixed. At least for me.
And so, Tom, what are your thoughts in terms of timing of follow-up and kind of next steps if we remain out of compliance? Do you have any thoughts on that, or is that sort of one of your questions for the board?
Yeah, it looks like Josh is taking steps to implement correction. I just think the training can only go so far. I just feel like a lot of the things are, common sense things like, don't store chicken above ready to eat lettuce. I mean, don't touch food with your bare hands. So I think it's more of like a management thing at this point to make sure maybe that, whoever is in charge is checking in on folks at the cook line to make sure that, I don't know what the answer is, to develop cleaning schedules, to, have a nightly meeting. There's a lot of tools that you could use, just more frequent monitoring of what's going on at your cook line to make sure that these actionable, mistakes aren't reoccurring, because a lot of them are very easily reparable. It's really kind of a lot of things that aren't that difficult to resolve. I can understand repair issues. I can understand capital improvements take time. I get that it's difficult to secure a plumber. It's difficult to secure an electrician. I can work with that. But what I can't accept is when the public health is at risk. And that's what I felt at this point. So with these issues reoccurring.
So this is Daryl. I apologize for having been had our system blown out by a very close stroke somewhere. So I'm gathering that some of the issues that are of concern are imminent hazards to people's health. So it's more, as I think Lisa pointed out or somebody else, it's more of an ongoing issue of keeping up with it day to day. So Would a shutdown period help for this at all?
Oh, what?
Or
I didn't, you went out
has
there.
to be a different approach. Excuse me?
So I think that, Josh, the question Daryl is asking is, the concern we have is sort of things remain out of compliant in ways that have a demonstrable public health risk. And so I think for us, what we're really trying to figure out is if we're at the point that a shutdown is warranted or required. I think our hope is to avoid that. But, again, I guess what I'm worried about is compared to a couple of weeks ago, we've made incremental progress, but feel like we're largely in the same spot. And so I'd love to kind of be able to say, we're going to reassess this in a week and it's going to be compliant. And if it's not, here's the strategy, because we can't just keep having meetings where we say, it's kind of okay. Because right now, like the reason Tom's citing is because it's out of code and it's unsafe. And so we sort of can't say that that's going to take us a month.
I tend to agree. I think we need to have a short interval and sort of a clear next step, because I feel like we're at the second check-in at this point, right? Like we talked about this 5 weeks ago. We're back with continued issues. Again, the capital stuff I understand, but the other stuff, needs to not keep coming up. And so I feel like we need to have a short interval check-in. And then if we're not there in a week or now or whatever we want to do it, because it's been a week since the inspection, that we maybe do need to put a pause on things.
I mean, I feel like most of
Tom?
I don't remember all of them, Tom, but I don't remember any other food safe issues we've had in the other, I don't know how many times you've been in, 8 times, 10 times. So there's reoccurring things that happen, but the chicken over the lettuce has never happened before. The
Right.
tuna salad above a certain temperature has never happened before. And I understand these are corrected. I've spoke to everyone, like I said. I'm going to speak to everyone this week. I'm there all day tomorrow. We're going to do a training session. I don't think closing is going to do us any good. I think me being there and training with the chefs and working with the chefs on a consistent basis would be more valuable.
Yeah, I think our concern is not that we find chicken above lettuce again. I think our concern is that we find something else like that, which speaks to a sort of lack of accountability and lack of oversight. And
right, I agree. No, I agree.
Right, improper food storage and improper temperatures, I think is more the repeat, not the specific items. So Tom, do you have availability in the near term to make a reinspection if the path we choose is continued operation, but with a near-term checkup?
Yes, I mean, I could conduct a reinspection as soon as this week, at the beginning of next week, whatever the board sees fit. I also had an additional question about, I know that the pest control had mentioned water on the floors. I know there was a couple catch buckets on the basement floor. Is there any, what is the source of that water? It looks like it could be coming from a waste pipe. Is it gray water from dishwasher discharge? Is it, God forbid, coming from the restrooms? I'm not sure, because it seems
it's the dish machine. It's the excess water the dish machine isn't. So it's soapy water with chemicals in it, sanitized water.
Okay, that's another concern too, because I noticed that, I don't know if it was from just because it was humid out, that the floors inside the walk-in units had some moisture. That might have been condensate. I don't know if it was leaching into there or not, but is there a game plan in place to patch any and all leaks in the waste drains above the basement food storage?
Yeah, I sent you the tile person it's the tile around the drain, I believe. So he's gonna come in and seal up the tile that's around the floor drains.
And Josh, so what you're saying is that this is intruding into the basement area from the floor above because of the tile and the dishwasher being sort of not working right now. Is that my understanding?
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yep.
And what's the timeline on the dishwasher install? Because that seems like it's a nexus of a bunch of stuff. Again, recognize.
Yeah, I agree. I don't remember. I have a text on my phone from the electrician that when he's available. So I don't know exactly, but in the next couple of weeks, I believe it was. I think he was 3 weeks out, and now he's 2 weeks out. So a week ago when I got the text.
The other area where I saw water leaking onto pans was near the cook line. I think it had to do with the air conditioning system. I don't know if there's a way to remedy that, or sometimes you can wrap condensation lines in a material to prevent the water from leaching.
To be honest, that's the first time that happened when you were there, and I went back and looked, and I haven't seen any. I mean, I have to see the water to find the source, so I have to. That's never happened before. So I don't know why that happened then at that point, but it hasn't happened since. So I have to find out where that water source is when it happens again to fix it.
And what kind of unit is that coming from?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think it might be AC. We have an AC unit up there, but we've never had an issue with that before, so I'm not sure. And the roof is brand new, so I'd have to see. There's no piping up there.
I don't know
so
how-
most likely. Sorry.
I was going to say, I don't know how specialized the dishwasher person is, but they may be able to identify the signs of something that's leaking, because there are techniques of putting.
No, it's an AC unit and air
Well,
conditioning.
I understand. Saying I don't know if they're familiar with plumbing in general or only dishwashing units, but tying rags around things, putting things down that will show if a leak has occurred on top of them. There are a lot of methods, so maybe you just need to get in a standard plumber to help with that rather than wait to see when it happens again.
So I want to be sensitive just to the 7:30 hearing. So it sounds like as a board, where we're at is, sounds like short cycle reinspection is desired, would like to see substantial improvement in what's found, particularly in those things that are sort of focused on food storage and food handling, as well as any kind of potential wastewater intrusions. I'd say those are things that we really would expect not to find. And then, my personal inclination is to, recognizing that these things can't be sort of instantaneous. I'd favor early next week versus the end of this week, but would look to others for their thoughts as well.
I think that sounds reasonable. I think I'd also like to see sort of a timeline for the capital improvements more than, a text on a phone or a couple of weeks from now, because I just worry we're going to get into this cycle of it's always a couple of weeks after we have a meeting. And so it would just be nice to see a more firm timeline on that.
Yeah, and this is Owen. The text that Josh sent from Sean, the electrician, he wrote, for Heritage, you need to run a new service to the dishwasher, 60 amp, 3-phase. And then the electrician wrote back, I don't have any time at the moment, wouldn't be for at least 3 to 4 weeks. And that was sent yesterday.
I guess that's concerning, right? Because if this is the cause of all our problems, we're talking about a month before this is fixed.
No, that wasn't sent yesterday. I sent it to you the other day. I sent it to you. I don't remember when I sent it to you. But that
I think this is just why we need a firm timeline rather than sort of chat back and forth about text we can't see.
And so maybe Josh, can that be part of what you'll prepare by next week, just in terms of delineating the planned dates and working with your contractors, so we can at least sort of have that to work with via Tom by early next week?
Yeah, that's fine. I just don't want to tell you something and not follow through. That's my only issue. Like, so if I take an electrician and he says 3 to 4 weeks and we schedule and he doesn't show up, and then you're upset with me. I mean, that's what I'm trying to avoid. So
yeah.
if he says 4 weeks and I tell you 4 weeks, I mean, I'm just trying to be upfront and honest. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm doing the best I can with what I have to do it. I can't. I've contacted 4 electricians. The dish stall and company is trying to help me find an electrician to do this. So it's not that I'm trying to evade it and force it along. It's just the fact I'm just trying to tell you where I'm at. And if you think I don't want it done, you're wrong. It's not the case at all.
Yeah, no, that's not it. I just think that, it's easier for us if we have something in front of us that says, here is what the timeline looks like. We understand that changes. Like, we've all dealt with contractors, right? I know things don't always happen when they should, but it's just easier for us to make a plan about when we need to check in and whether additional action needs to be taken if we at least have some sort of timeline in front of us.
Right. I sent that text to Ellen and Tom. It was a day. I'm sorry, I can't stop the Zoom call and look at my phone right now, but it was a day that was before whenever that I talked to him. And then, so it was a couple of weeks ago. So it's probably 2 weeks. I don't remember exactly the date.
I received it July 2nd. Yeah.
Right. That's when I texted to you, not when the electrician texted it to me. It should have the day on there or whatever the date. I don't know.
Okay.
And I think it's not our goal to put you on the spot. I think it's really to say, like, you know, we have a responsibility to make sure that stuff's meeting code. And so if it's not, like we, you know, even if it's not, like it's not intended to be a punitive piece, it's just like, we need to have stuff in compliance. And so.
Sure, I will do a schedule for everything for you next week.
Perfect. And Tom, you will follow up with Heritage and kind of do those next steps. And then Ellen, can we just at least plan to have this as a check-in agenda item for the 21st? Hopefully a short, you know, conversation like, yep, I've seen substantial improvement. Here's a timeline just so we can kind of have it on the agenda.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Josh, thank you for all that you're working on. I can only imagine how stressful this is. I hope you appreciate, you know, I think we value you as a member of the community, but also, you know, have a responsibility to make sure that we're kind of hitting the rules that we're asked to enforce.
Sure, thank you.
Thanks. Good night.
All right, bye.
Thank you, Josh, for your time.
I'm sorry, I missed that, Tom.
I did too.
I just said thank you, Josh, for your time.
Okay. All right. If we need to take a vote, someone could make a motion. I think since I did not officially hear the entire discussion, that I probably should not be voting on this one.
So do I have a motion to have Tom arrange a time to meet with staff and ownership at the Heritage early in the week of, what will that be, July 12th? To demonstrate substantial improvement, particularly as relates to wastewater, food handling, and operational issues.
And food safety. So moved.
Perfect, like it. Do I have a second?
And before you vote,
Oops.
okay, and before you vote, I'd just like to ask Tom, do you think that it's dangerous to wait, let's see, at least 4 more business days?
I think there's an honest effort to make corrective action, and we did correct the issues that were concerning on-site at the inspection last week. I do believe that they have means to sanitize equipment with the current dishwasher that's there, and when that does act up, which it has a tendency to do, and that's why it's being replaced, I believe there's backup means to sanitize equipment with liquid sanitizer in a 3-compartment sink.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm not voting on this.
So I'll second the motion then.
Oh, I think Matt, you're first
Oh,
then.
and then I'm first. Good point. So I'll second it and then I'll vote aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye.
Okay, thank you. So we have now we have a variance hearing for a septic replacement and expansion at 45 Everett Street. And Ellen, did we receive all of the green cards?
Yes, we did.
Okay. So Dan, let me just bring up.
Yeah, Dan McIntyre representing the homeowners.
Welcome. And
So they're readying the property for a sale, and they had a Title V inspection, which did not go in their favor. So we were retained to design a new septic system. This is a 4-bedroom house. Well is in the backyard. The existing septic system is in the front yard. We're proposing to install a new septic in essentially the same location as the existing in the front yard in order to meet all the well setbacks for the on-site well and the 2 abutting wells. The soils were relatively good. There was a high groundwater table in the area. So we are raising the new system higher than the existing system. We did design for a fully Title V compliant system, and we are asking for the +1 bedroom for the future owners to either add a bedroom or perhaps if they put up a wall, they could go over the room count. So we wanted to accommodate that. We are proposing to use an alternative system, the Elgin system, in an effort to keep the footprint of the system down, as well as it's a slightly lower profile than a conventional system, to keep mounting of the front yard to a minimum. When we use an alternative system under the DEP's general use approval for new construction, we have to show that a conventional system will fit in the front yard, and we've showed that as well. So a conventional system could fit, but we are proposing the alternative system in this case. It will be a pump system. The plumbing in the basement can't be raised any higher, so we're coming out new septic tank, pump tank, and then pumping up to the Elgins in a trench configuration. And with that, I think I could open it up to questions.
Are there any abutters to this property here tonight? Okay, if there are, but if you couldn't unmute quickly enough, the board will ask questions, the agent may ask some questions, and then if you haven't heard something that you're curious about, then let us know.
You can ask her.
Hi, I'm Monica Daly, and I'm at 51 Everett, so I'm one house over.
Okay,
To Andrew,
and
yeah.
on which side are you on? Oh, this is, let's see.
Um,
Seven, so you must be,
on the right side of the house.
okay, so on this side, this
Yes.
direction. Okay. Okay. All right. Mark, would you like to comment on this before we go to board questions? Is Mark on? I didn't check.
Yeah, he is.
I think he's on mute.
I am on, but I
Oh.
apologize, I was on mute. As Dan noted, this is unique to what we normally see in respect to the fact they're looking for one additional bedroom. With that said, they have to meet Title V, and for the use of an Elgin system, and not strictly just for repair, but for the potential for another bedroom, they have to show that they also have the area for a conventional system, and you'll see the outline around where the Elgins are going. So in case the Elgins ever fail, they can put exactly right there, Darryl. They can actually go forward and put in a conventional system if need be.
Okay, and that's within the constraints for when we have a
Yes.
variety, but certainly all these setbacks really does limit it to this part. And then, of course, the driveways here too is another
Yeah, that is
limit.
correct. Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
The
Anyone on the
present
board?
system is designed for 5 bedrooms, just so the board knows.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so was it Monica, if you have any questions? Or,
We really have no objection
okay,
at all. I think they're doing the right thing.
yes, and it is a modern system that is being put in, so
Yeah.
that is an advantage over what was there, certainly.
The only thing is that the pumping system, that's new to the existing.
Yeah, the existing system is a gravity system.
Yeah,
The existing leach trenches are not in the groundwater table, but pretty close to it. So
that
we're raising that up to get the required groundwater offset.
so that requires another induction motor and circuitry extra, like
Yes, there'll be a, in that second tank, there'll be I think it's about a 1/3 horsepower motor to pump the effluent up from the tank to the distribution box. And that'll go back to its own pump panel. It's all at 115 volts.
Okay.
So it's at the house voltage.
Okay, so as Dan noted, there's going to be more soil separating the bottom of the pipes, leaching the wastewater between there and the groundwater. So that's good. That's filtering and cleansing ability. And Dan, if the pumps aren't operating and yet there continue to be discharges from the house, will the house be the first, this house be the first impacted by any overflowing conditions?
Well, before it overflows, we have a couple of components there. First is an alarm in the tank that'll indicate that the pumps are not working. The liquid level will start to build up and it'll trigger an alarm. And then above the alarm level, we have a full days of storage in the pump tank to allow some response time for either the septic contractor or an electrician to come out and check the pumps. After that, then it would go back toward the house, would be its first breakout.
Okay. So if there was to be a bigger problem like an extended power outage, this homeowner will know first and be able to take some kind of action before neighbors will be affected, I guess is what I'm after.
And if there was a power outage, they would lose the use of the well, so they wouldn't have waters either. So,
yeah, good point.
I was just going to make that point, that they would lose the use of the well. And they also have the opportunity, if they ever wanted to, is to put a Gen-Trans switch in and set up for a generator if they ever wanted to go that route, so their well and septic could still function.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone? Otherwise, I'll bring up the variance letter.
so although it's a Title V compliance system, we are requesting 2 waivers to the Sherborn regulations, both related to groundwater. One is the 5-foot offset to groundwater. We'd like to do that as a 4-foot offset to try to keep the mounding in the front yard to a minimum. And the second one is the natural condition of having groundwater closer to the surface than 5 feet.
Okay, so do we have a motion to grant a variance to section 8.01?
So moved.
Second.
And any other comments or questions on that?
Nope.
Okay, Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye.
Okay, and do we have a motion to grant a variance to section 8.02?
So moved.
Second.
Further comments? Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye.
Okay, and so that is the extent of the variances. And Mark, are the plans, so I'll close the hearing, and are the plans ready for approval?
Yes, they're ready for approval, conditional to deed recordings, both for the garbage disposal and for the IA technology being used, which is the IA technology, which is the Elgin drains.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the plans subject to receipt of the 2 deed recordings?
So moved.
Second.
Any other comments? Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye.
Okay. Any
Thank
other
you very
questions from you? No? Okay. Great, and we are back on track. All right, so it is 7:50 and we have a variance hearing for a septic replacement at 7 Corsebrook Road. And have we received all the green cards, Ellen?
Yes, we have.
Done great.
Okay, and so we have Elizabeth Dupre, I saw was on earlier, hope still there. I'll bring up the diagram. Is this the one to start with, Elizabeth?
We sent plans in today. I don't know if
That should be it.
Oh, that was it, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
so we're proposing a septic repair here with a septic tank, pump chamber, and a perk system, which is like a drip irrigation system. We're asking for local upgrade approval for a reduction in separation to groundwater, reduction in separation from groundwater from the inverts of the tanks, installing the system less than 125 feet to the owner's well, and 53.4 feet from the BVW. This is a repair. There is no expansion. And that is the gist of it. Does anyone have questions?
Well, Mark, do you have any particular comments?
Well, the plan was under review and I did send a notice of some of the deficiencies. That's why they just came back today. And I sent out notice on June 30th. Just so the board knows, I haven't had a chance to review the requirements to make sure it's fully in compliance, but I did tell Elizabeth that the board could hear the hearing, the waivers being requested tonight, the variances, and then based on that, one important factor, and I did take a quick look at the plan, is to have a groundwater profile on the plan. And there is a groundwater profile, so that way you can, it's on page 2, and that way you can see the waiver being requested in the location of the groundwater versus the location of the perk system, and that would be on the second page. I didn't see a duplex pump, Liz. Do you know offhand if that was built in somewhere? Again, I was looking at it quickly for what the board may want to look at. Did a duplex pump get placed in the pump chamber?
Yeah, so that's on the second page, and that was
I was looking
I
for the
sent
word.
I sent in two second pages.
Oh,
I had
okay.
did the wrong one first, so I didn't, she said
That's
she
fine.
received the second one. I don't know if it's.
That's fine. As long as, and then all the word, wherever there's the word pump should say pumps. May it be on page 1 or page 2, but that's fine. I was looking at it quickly, and then we have discussed perk testing, and my notes show that I left the site at 2:30 per my payroll. They are showing they continue the perk, which I wasn't familiar with. In fact, in my notes, it indicated they would take a sample and that was the end of the testing. So that's going to have to be decided on as well, because my notes do not reflect what their plan reflects. And that fact, they continue the perk test until past dark at 4:45. So there's some discrepancies there that I'm going to need to make sure is resolved.
Okay. All right, and all right, you can tell us later as we're trying to vote on something, how we.
So for the waivers tonight, that would be fine, but this plan's going to have to come back to the board, and there's going to have to be further discussion with the soil evaluator on what actually occurred and why it occurred.
Okay. All right, so the general positioning, the setbacks from things, the basics, groundwater determination, that's all okay then?
Yes, in respect to that, the deep holes, which are shown, I think I'm trying to move the plan, Daryl. I realize on your screen. So I can open up my plan here. The depot data is on page 1. You're right in there. You were right there. You just move it up a little bit again. Unfortunately,
there
I
it
had
is. Yep,
trouble
yep, yep.
moving these plans around. I think they're in a Adobe file and I had trouble, but there's your depot. You just were there. There's your depots
Yeah.
there and it shows the
I
perk
want
test.
more at once.
We're almost there now. Beautiful. Now, if you go to the right of the, there you go. So, and there's the soil evaluation information on the test pits. I did ask that they add the elevations to them. And I am in agreement with that data because I checked it with my soil test book and the models are in agreement with what I have. So they took those elevations. You'll see 205.7. Let me see, 205.7 for depot test pit number 1, and they translated that over to the groundwater profile on the second page. And those elevations weren't there prior, but I explained for the purpose of the meeting, it would be important for the board to be able to view that and to see the groundwater profile, which is on page 2.
Mhm. Okay. All right, so we have pretty much our usual conditions. If we have a well, we're already looking for a reduction in setback there. And then Conservation Commission evaluated the acceptability of the system, proposed system relative to the wetlands. So there's not a lot of other space to be
No,
putting
there-
a system
And
in.
I agree, Darrell. If I could add to, they did put a definitive note on the revision indicating there are no other wells within 200 except as shown.
Mhm.
We've seen in this neighborhood that, as you can tell from this lot as well, they're not the widest lots. So with that, we require that all wells within 200 feet get addressed. So that would address
Mhm.
well across the street if that abutters here. If there was a well there, that is, but they did put a definitive note at the very top of page 1. I don't know if this is it does say that there are no wells within 200 feet except as shown.
Yeah,
There are-
point number 4 here.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, you see it before we do. Yep, there it is. So that's important too, especially with the neighbors being so close in this neighborhood. There was some question on if the owner is the applicant. I'm not for sure if that's been addressed yet on the plan, but it does show an applicant in the address block. I'm not for sure if the applicant is the owner, and we will need to make.
Excuse me.
Case.
I don't know if someone can hear me. I just joined in the meeting.
Yes, we can now.
Hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
My name is Caesar from CN Construction Group. I'm sorry, I'm still on a job site, but I'm not a licensed installer in town yet, but I am a licensed installer on multiple other towns. And the homeowner, it's a friend of mine, personally friend of mine, and also he came highly recommended by a couple other friends that we know. So I'll be the one that will be installing the system, I believe. I just joined in the meeting, and I think that's what you guys talking about.
We were just talking about the applicant, whether the applicant is also the homeowner. But in terms of you installing the system, you'll need to apply to install in Sherborn. So you could contact the Board of Health office and get an application for that. Okay.
Liz, do you know offhand, did they determine if the applicant is the owner on this one?
Excuse me, I'm a friend of the owner as well, and yes, the applicant is the owner.
Okay, I did ask Liz to make sure she indicates who the owner is. So you could put the word owner / applicant on the plan if that's the case. Thank you.
Can you see this? Is this okay now? No. Okay.
Darrell, that's what they could keep the word applicant there, but they also have to put owner, so they could put applicant / owner, something like
Is
that.
it fine how it says owner right next to the name, Mark, or does it need to be different?
Let me, 1 second. I just went to view options to get back there. 1 second. Let me go to view. full screen, sorry, I just got blocked out. So it says applicant, and then does it
Owner?
say, oh, with the name? Okay, see, I haven't had a chance to review this plan yet, so
Okay,
Liz,
all right.
that is good. Thank you for putting that there. I didn't see that. I haven't looked at this plan yet. This is the revision received this afternoon.
Okay, all right. So
Thank you.
it'll need some review. All right. All right, if no one else, are there any abutters to this property that have questions?
Hi, this is Ann and Magnus. We're back again. I'm excited.
Hi.
Hi. We just had one question. So this is a repair and not a replacement, because it seems like lots of new stuff there. So I just wanted to ask about that.
So that's correct. It's
It's
a repair.
repair as a replacement. That's exactly right.
I'm sorry, it's a repair and not a replacement? What did you say?
They are replacing their system and it is considered a repair
I see. Because it's in the same spot or what?
because it's not an expansion of the number of bedrooms in the house.
And it didn't pass Title V, right?
And the old system's going to be replaced with this new system. The old system will be abandoned.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna bring up the letter. Let's see. Okay. So, and certainly if any other questions come to mind, we can address them as we go through the variance requests. So do we have a motion to grant a variance to section 8.01, which has to do with the separation of groundwater?
So moved.
Second,
Any other
I'm
comments?
confused, Daryl. I thought that Mark said that they need to come back to the board. So why are we voting now? To go
Because
over
we
the
can,
plan when it's ready?
yeah, we can vote the variances, but whether the plan is ready for approval is a different matter.
That's
And we
correct.
can do that afterwards.
I'm comfortable with the board looking at these waivers. If they ask for more, if they need it, they'll have to come back for that, but hopefully this will be it.
that makes sense.
Okay. I can't remember. If I didn't vote, I'll say Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye.
And do we have a motion to grant a variance to section 10.1A regarding the distance from the owner's well? So that's the on-site well.
So moved.
Second.
I'll just note that we always prefer that the setbacks, if there's a choice, be to the owner's well versus to a neighbor's well. So glad that they were able to achieve that. So Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye.
And do we have a motion to grant a variance to section 10.2, which has to do with the distance from wetlands buffer?
And the Concom approved that, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So moved.
Seconded.
Comments? Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye.
Okay, and then we have local upgrade approvals. Do we have a motion to grant a variance to 5 section 15.4051H?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, comments? Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye.
Okay, and then do we have a motion to grant a variance to section 14.4051J?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, and this the engineer didn't mention this, but this is to seal the tank because I assume it's being placed into groundwater to some degree or suspected to be subject to high groundwater.
It was upgraded to a monolithic tank on the revision.
Oh.
And yeah.
It's based on, I haven't looked at the groundwater at the tank, but I was telling Liz, they were using monolithic, I believe, for the pump chamber or whatever. It might have been the other way around, but on this one here, I think I have to look to see where the groundwater was at the invert for the invert coming into the inlet at the septic tank. Liz, do you know what the groundwater was? I haven't had a chance to look at your plan on that, what the groundwater
The high water table at the septic tank was 205.75. The invert at the septic tank is 206.14. The invert out is 205.94. So that information has been added to the plan, and that is what it is. Based on our,
Yeah, no, that's fine, Liz. Thank you. And that explains the need for the waiver, basically, because you're still within 12 inches.
That's right.
So whether or not there are joints to be sealed, that the inverts will need something.
Yeah, they're going to have to make sure they're rubber booted or sealed properly in monolithic.
Yeah.
So thank you, Liz, for the update.
Okay, so Daryl, aye.
Pat Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Natalia, aye.
Okay, so I'll close the hearing, and so we know that the plans aren't ready for approval, but we can choose to.
And there's a need for a deed recording because they did not design for a garbage disposal. And we discussed that. I discussed that with Liz, and just so.
Okay.
And Daryl, just so you know, as I was just sitting on mute, I saw John, he's to my left of my screen. He was raising his hand, John Olivera. I think he may want to speak after, but
okay.
They'll need to complete the deed recording, and I'll review the revised plan. And if everything goes right and we figure out what's going on with that perk test, it may be on for the next meeting. I can't guarantee. We got to figure a few things out on that percolation test.
Mark, do they also need the DEP notice of alternative system deed recording for the perk rate?
That is correct, Ellen. I believe.
So
they
2 deed recordings.
that paperwork, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And just so I think there may be some confusion, we, on the garbage grinder deed recording and alternative technology, Ellen has, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ellen, she has boilerplate type deed recordings to save you the effort of having it done by legal counsel. So
right, I provide the deed recordings to
Yep.
the applicant. Yeah.
Yep. Just to help out, and that's a nice service. That way you don't have to get your own lawyer.
So Mark, is it worth us making a motion tonight to approve the plan subject to receipt of the 2 deed recordings and your confirmation of both completeness and accuracy of the plans and resolution of the perk rate?
I prefer not to do that, Darryl. I prefer to have you
Okay.
wait till when it can be discussed. Like I said, there's an issue with the percolation test. I have documents to indicate when I left the site and documents in my notes to indicate that the soil evaluator was taking a sample to the lab and they're disagreeing with it.
Okay.
So I need to have that resolved, and we're going to have to talk with the state on it too, because this person's a licensed soil evaluator.
Yeah. Okay.
It's my understanding that he did not come into agreement to take the soil, and that he followed through with the perk test. So
Okay, well, we'll have to.
I don't know why you have the note that he was taking a soil sample for the lab, because that wasn't the case.
On the sidebar, but obviously that wasn't explained to me at the site. I would have never left. I was in town for the rest of the day too.
Yeah, it's definitely
Mark's been doing this for a long time, observing, so he wouldn't leave unless he thought it was completed.
And I know my soil evaluator, and if he said he was going to take it, he would have taken it. If he said he wasn't taking it to the lab or didn't agree that he was taking it to the lab, I know that he wouldn't have been. So he's you know, there's definitely some discrepancy, so we do have to come to some understanding on that.
Okay,
So
all
it sounds
right,
like
so
with
we
the
will
next
hold
meeting-
off until the next meeting then. So
Or
understood
whenever
by,
approval's ready, right?
so can we continue to a date and time certain for this?
You
Oh,
don't-
that's not a
You
hearing.
don't have to, because
That's
the
just
hearing
plan approval.
closed the hearing, yep.
Yep, okay.
So whenever the plan is ready, Mark will put it on
Mhm.
the agenda.
Okay,
And
all
we'll be
right.
notified of a continuation.
There's no.
Yeah. Right, the hearing, the variances are completed, so it doesn't have to be a formal continuation of the hearing. It's just the plan approval is outstanding.
Do we come back to meeting or hearing for it, or it's just off, it's done, we're done in the meeting format and
You'll be back for a meeting as agent's business, but it won't be a hearing. So the hearing will be closed. Mark will be able to give you guidance to say, yep, this is going to be on the July 21st meeting. It just won't have a specific assigned time slot because it'll be agent's business unless there's a specific appointment available.
And I would say if you come to resolution between now and then, not everybody comes for the final plan approval if Mark is going to recommend to us that it's ready.
Okay, and somebody will notify me by email, or is it, Mark, you're just gonna call, or what's the? I just want to know how I can, I don't want to miss anything.
Yeah, whenever and when it gets to a meeting, you'll be invited. And if you want to participate, you can, and we'll go from there.
And also between now and then though, Mark, you're going to be reviewing the plan, reaching out to them about what to do about the perk test, correct?
Test, and once I have the review done, I'll be reaching out. So yeah, there'll be communication through the process. That is correct.
Okay. All right, and then you mentioned that someone else had their hand up, Mark?
I thought, I apologize, but my block is right next to John Oliveira's, and I thought I saw him raising his hand. Maybe not. I apologize, John, if you weren't.
Okay, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm muted. Yeah, so I just wanna, I appreciate and thank everyone for everything. I'm friends with the owner, and I'm also the realtor that he used to buy the property. And, you know, like, it's, you know, he's Brazilian, you know, like he doesn't know how things work pretty well. So he's struggling to get this thing done. You know, he bought this property almost a year and a half ago. He's still paying rent and he still paid the mortgage, very high mortgage for this property, you know. And I'm also trying to help him get this paperwork sorted out. And, you know, like, cause, you know, it's hard for him to afford all of that. And his daughter, you know, he wanted his daughter to be in good school and everything. So like, and I got to the point that is missing. I'm going to talk to him and see if we can get that stretched out. And just to clarify one thing, so until all this get clear on the septic system, he cannot continue the work on the house, right? Because he's renovating the house, and now everything is stopped.
Yeah, you cannot work on, if I may, Daryl.
Go ahead, please.
You have a failed septic system. If you're planning to do any type of renovation besides cosmetic, that can't be done. I don't know if he's submitted a building plan yet for review. If he did, I'd have to go back and look at it. But if it's cosmetic, that can be done on a failed septic system. Once you change rooms or floor plans and so forth, then that has to wait for the septic system construction to start.
Okay. No, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
The other thing I'll mention, when you're using a septic system, it's different and tougher to do things such as painting. So you really shouldn't be washing out any kind of paint brushes or rollers. Just either, what I used to do was wrap my brushes and rollers in plastic and use them again the next day, or have different ones for different colors of paint and then just throw out the roller, rather than try to wash everything out and wash it into the septic system, which then can kill off the biological processes there. So.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
just
No,
say-
that's good to know. I appreciate it. I'll talk to him about that too.
Mhm.
Oh, thanks so much. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. Time.
Okay,
Thank you to the board from Clearwater as well.
thank you. And look forward to seeing the plan next time, perhaps. Okay, so back to,
And Daryl, for the next hearing, I am recusing myself.
okay. All right, so we have a scheduled variance hearing for a septic replacement at 8 Mill Street. And we have Dan McIntyre to present, and it'll take me just a moment to pull that up.
All right, this is another home that's going up for sale at 8 Mill Street that didn't pass the Title V inspection.
Mhm. Oops. Okay. Oh, so it's right in the triangle.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
right in between Woodland and Mill.
You did get all the green cards.
Oh,
so
thank you,
you're all
Ellen.
set.
Thank you. Felt like something was missing. All right, take it away, Dan.
All right. So this is a existing 3-bedroom home with a conventional septic system kind of in the front yard, and the well over in the side yard. Over the years, the woods kind of encroached back in on the yard and took over the septic system. And I think that was their major problem with the Title V inspection. Although we did discover a very high groundwater table here. So I think at least during parts of the year, the existing system was in the water table. So we're proposing a conventional stone and pipe system, fully compliant with Title V. The topography worked fairly well here, where we could mound up the system to get the 4-foot groundwater offset, and still make the grading work around the house without too much problems. We will have a pump similar to what we talked about at 45 Everett, to get from the plumbing in the house up to the distribution box. And on this one here, we're also requesting the +1 to make this a 4-bedroom house. And in case the future owners want to do anything or add walls or do something in the basement, they won't be restricted by a 3-bedroom septic system. So as I said, it is fully Title V compliant, no well issues with the butters or the on-site wells. We are asking for 2 waivers to the Sherborn regulations, both related to groundwater. One is that the groundwater table is within 5 feet of the surface. It's actually about 2 feet in this location. And then we're also asking for a 4-foot groundwater offset instead of 5, in effort to minimize the mounding in that area.
Okay.
And with that, I can open it to questions.
So Dan, is there no other possibility of locating it in a place that's well distance compliant, but maybe deeper groundwater?
Well, we dug several test pits around the existing system, and it was pretty consistent water table at about 24 inches all through here.
Mm.
And as I said, it's a pretty wooded site.
Mm-hmm.
So we felt it best to try to put it back near the existing system to minimize how many trees have to come down and be able to blend the new mound into the existing topography around the house and have a fairly decent yard left over.
It also looks like the elevations near the house are perhaps higher, unless it goes back up again in this point, but then,
No, it tends to go down that direction.
okay.
I think they must have built the house up when they
Mhm.
originally constructed it due to the groundwater table, is my
Oh.
guess.
That makes sense. Yeah, because it's like at a 113, is that
Right.
114, something like that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it makes sense in terms of groundwater, drinking water protection to keep it where it is. It's just unfortunate it's so shallow, but
Mhm. And Mark, any particular observations about this property?
Not really. I think Dan explained it pretty well. It's unfortunate the trees grew into the old system, but it is pretty much situated the best it can be based on the design that Dan provides, as well as, they're getting the benefit of an additional bedroom, which the board allows. And again, with this system, it's going to be the use of trenches, so he doesn't have to, he just is providing space between trenches for the reserve. So it's a little different from the last one you saw with the Elgins.
Mhm. Okay. And any other questions from the rest of the board, or are there any abutters here to this property besides our board member? Well, not besides, you can ask a question, Matt.
I've got nothing. I really enjoy people replacing failed systems. I'm enthusiastic.
Okay. All right, so let's move on then to the variance requests. Okay, so do we have a motion to grant a variance to section 8.01?
so moved.
Seconded.
I'll second, okay. And any more comments? Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Okay, and do we have a motion to grant a variance to section 8.02?
So moved.
Seconded.
Other comments? Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Okay, so I'll close the hearing. And are the plans ready for approval, Mark?
Yes, they are conditional to a deed recording for not requiring a garbage grinder. So they're going to design without one, so they need the deed recording for that.
Okay, and this is their use of the +1, so this will be it
Yes.
for the property for the future, but that'll
It-
be
Very good point.
in the records. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the plans subject to receipt of the deed recording?
So moved.
Second.
Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Okay, do you have any other questions, Dan?
Oh, I'm all set. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's see how we're doing on. All right, so we have 7 minutes. How about discussion of signage regarding ticks at trailheads? I think Dover is planning that, and I know we have, I haven't had a chance, sorry. Dover's planning to put up some sort of signage, but a mixture of trustee of reservations land, and then I don't know if Concom or Open Space Committee might be a more appropriate group, but I guess as Board of Health, do we think that this is something to suggest to the groups who maintain trails around town?
I don't see a downside to doing it. I mean, I think most people who have lived here for any period of time are very aware that we have a huge tick problem, especially if you have pets. But I mean,
Yeah.
I guess I don't see a downside to, just making sure people, hey, do a tick check when you the trailhead.
I mean, for that matter, you could put them all over town.
Right.
Yeah, can we get one in my backyard?
Yeah. Give everyone.
No, I agree. I think there's a little downside. The Beavers family is painfully aware of ticks this week. So I'm pro signage, assuming that it's not too expensive and there's budget for it.
Yeah. I want it shaped like a tick, but that's about my main
Ew,
comment.
No. I wrote that down.
So we had friends visiting and they noticed some tick cards that, I don't know, I had gotten somewhere in the past, and they didn't realize that there was a difference between deer and dog or wood ticks. So they were very excited to receive some information about that. So who knows, since during the COVID era, there were certainly a lot of people coming to town to go hiking who might not have had any idea about ticks. So that's something useful. And maybe there are existing signs that they could borrow, but is there anyone in particular who wants to reach out about tick signs or write a little email saying?
So who would do it? Is it DCR or, I mean,
no,
or is
I think it
local rec department? Like, who's going to do that?
I think the Open Space Committee and or Conservation Committee has posted signage about other things in the past.
But like if
Forest and Trails, any of those groups might be responsible for overseeing that.
Or like the trustees, like, because some of the properties are trustees.
Yeah.
Properties. So it's kind of confusing to me, like who is the primary contact?
Right. I don't know.
I don't either.
And that might just take some sending out something as it's come up, just really because Dover is looking into doing that. I don't know what they've decided yet, but they wanted to. They raised the issue, so I thought I'd bring it back to the board.
Is that something that our town administrator could be the point person
on? Could be.
He's not on this call, so I think that's an opportune.
Having heard no objections.
You know, if you're not at the meeting, you get volunteered. No, I'm teasing. I don't know, Jeff. You know, I think it's also really a select person question too. Would you guys be in support of that? And do you have insights into who would be the point person for that, or is it separate for each type of trail?
Yeah, I don't know. I could ask, and I don't know. I know we have a Concom person who was on, a select board member, but I don't know if they're 100%.
Yeah, Courtney's saying like it could be like a bunch of different, like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, this is Courtney. I guess with a Concom hat right now. Yeah, so a lot of the land is managed by conservation. So that would be something that the Concom can discuss about putting up signage. There's some places where there's like kiosks and stuff where it could be posted. But then, you know, town forest land is managed separately by the town forest people. And, you know, obviously the trustees have their own space. So it is unfortunately not under one overarching management.
All right. Well, how about I ask Dover if they found anything like an easy signage, or they've already talked to the trustees who might already have something. I'll try to remember to look.
Yeah, I was just trying to think about like if at Rocky Narrows, if they actually even already have something, but I can't.
I believe they do, at least in the.
Yeah, I feel like they do.
I do too, but I don't want to commit to saying.
Yeah. And also something somewhat unobtrusive, but just helpful. And what that would be, who knows? All right, if no one else, if anyone's passionate about this, let me know. And if you just want to send out a killer email, or otherwise I'm just going to send something to others and say, this has come up as an issue, could be helpful for people using the trails in town who are not yet familiar with ticks and don't want to become familiar with ticks.
I think we could talk about it, you know, in sort of a bigger context, because for the whole issue of, it's a big issue. It's been going on for a long time. It's not going away anytime fast. And and some people feel strongly about signs. Some people want them, some people don't. Where should we put signs? Are there other ways to promote public education that don't disturb people's view or whatever? I think that we could make a lot of effort on tick education and other things like that. I'd love to be involved. I have very big interest in it. So
Okay, it's yours. So you can pursue that to your heart's content. And certainly if you have one input from the board, bring it back to the next meeting and we could chat. Or another, if not the next meeting. But right now we have to go back to our variance hearings.
Yeah.
But thank you, Rebecca, for volunteering. Okay, so we have a variance hearing for a septic replacement expansion at 256 Western Avenue. And do we have the green cards?
Yes, we do.
Excellent. Okay, Dan, I will bring up the
All right.
documents.
So this particular property, the owner is not selling it, but he is proposing an addition to the existing home and would like to upgrade his septic system as part of that. The addition consists of a garage and a bathroom addition to the master bedroom, as well as a kitchen renovation, which will essentially kind of make a more of an open concept kitchen dining room area in the house. The existing system is a conventional septic tank trench system, but we couldn't find any design records on it. The assessors have the house as a 3-bedroom, although it appears to be used as a 4-bedroom based on the existing room layout. It's a kind of a long ranch style, 1 floor, and based on the kind of the room layout, there's 4 bedrooms now, but the assessors do have it as 3. We're proposing to design a 4-bedroom septic system to accommodate, we'd be able to call it a true 4-bedroom house when we're done. So that consists of, we're also going back with a conventional stone and pipe system. The topography is such, and the inverts of the plumbing is such that we do have to have another pump tank here. So we're proposing a 1,500 gallon septic tank with a pump tank after that to pump up to the distribution box. There is some additional piping here because the existing laundry discharges to a separate leach pit, which will be abandoned, and we will tie the plumbing around the exterior of the house into the septic tank because there was really no way to do the plumbing underneath the slab and crawl space of the house. So that's kind of a unique feature of this one, but certainly works.
Okay.
This is to get the +1, to get the 4-bedroom, this is a Title V compliant system. But again, we are asking for a couple of waivers on the Sherman regulations related to depth of groundwater. Groundwater table out here is pretty consistent at about 3.5 feet below grade. So we're requesting that waiver, as well as the 4-foot to offset to groundwater rather than the 5-foot, to try to keep the grading within the property line and avoid taking down some unique trees there and building a retaining wall.
Okay, and Mark, does the house layout make sense to you in terms of it, even with the renovations, still qualifying as a 4-bedroom?
Unfortunately, they have not, that I know of, shared that plan yet. They're welcome to submit as a preliminary building plan or can submit as a building permit, but if they want an answer on it, they're more than welcome to submit a preliminary building plan to our department, the nominal fee of 150. And we can review that ahead of time if so be. But if Dan's already done that review, I think he's pretty familiar with our requirements. So whatever they.
Yeah, I'm not sure they went through the formal building permit process, but we did include the floor plans with our packet to you, Mark.
Okay. I haven't seen those yet, Dan. I just get the plans,
Okay.
so I'll look through the file and look for those. But it will really, I'll do it as part of the septic review. That won't be a problem. But thank you. So you do have the existing and proposed floor plans?
Yes.
Excellent. I'll look at those then for you.
So is it premature for us to discuss this? Because don't we have to just confirm that indeed the room count is as advertised?
We always allow the engineer to present the room count. We normally don't even get floor plans, so, but in this case, that will assist. It's word of the engineer, and if the engineer is inaccurate, then it gets back to the drawing board, but.
I do have the plans if you'd like me to share my screen.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Okay.
Just to see if there's going to be any disappointment, because it sounds like they haven't officially submitted a building application. And so you're basing this off of the existing house plus one. And then hopefully their new plans will fit into that, is how it sounds like it's going now.
I don't think, Dan, I never received these plans, so they weren't submitted with the packet of with the septic plans.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I put them in with the calculation package that I send in with the soil reports and everything, but.
Okay, I did, maybe I don't look through those,
Okay.
so it might be then.
And this is Joe Raya, by the way. This is the owner of the house. So if there are any questions I need to respond to, I can.
Okay.
So can you see a floor plan on your screen?
Yep.
So if we start over on the right-hand side, you'll see a master bedroom here. Then we go down to a second bedroom, third bedroom, fourth bedroom, and then another room they're calling an office. Then there's kind of a main hallway through the center of the house, tying the kitchen and dining area to a living room over here.
But those are separate, essentially, I would say. The living room versus the kitchen.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then two in the basement.
Yes.
I
count
see
10.
8.
I count
Yeah.
8 on the first floor and 2
One.
in the basement.
No, I count 9.
8.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
No, I wouldn't count the hall.
No, but you didn't count the kitchen either.
Yeah, but is the kitchen and dining room sort of together or not?
Not with a wall. If it was open, it'd be an
Oh.
eating area,
So
but it's
1,
not.
2,
It's a separate
3,
room.
4, 5, 6, 7. I still get 9. Am I counting 1, 2?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh no, you're right. It's 10.
7,
It's
8.
10. Yeah.
9,
it's-
10.
So I'm glad you brought the,
So that's 5.
yeah, so that's a 5-bedroom system that would be needed.
So let me switch to, this is the existing plan. I'm going to switch to the proposed plan.
Okay.
Okay.
And a quick question, Dan, or to the owner, Joseph, the basement rooms that present themselves on the existing plan, are those below grade, and are there any bulkheads or anything versus a walkout?
They are below grades. It's a full basement depth, and the only access to is a stair from the living room.
Okay, because that could be a helpful situation if need be.
And is it all finished condition space down there?
Correct. The gym area is a 7-foot ceiling, and then I think it's 7'6" in the other room.
But they have finished ceilings. There's not like exposed insulation or anything down there.
Correct.
But there's no egress except for through the house.
Correct.
So so that's different. Okay.
Yeah, so that's a possibility. And they don't have concrete floor, it's something on top of the concrete?
Yeah, laminate floor.
Okay,
Yeah, and pretty much the existing plan is kind of, is how we purchased the house. So
Yep.
this is kind of the layout. Nothing's been done to it except, you know, updating the mechanical system.
Okay, so now can we go to the proposed?
So here's the proposed. You'll see they're opening up the kitchen into an open concept kitchen. They're adding a bathroom onto this bedroom here.
Dan, just one clarification. We're relocating the bathroom.
Oh yeah, they're relocating the bathroom. That's right. There was a bathroom up here. They're moving it down here. Yeah.
By opening up the kitchen, as long as it's a kitchen eating area, you don't, you know.
What about the mudroom, Mark? Like, is that considered a room?
No. The bedroom.
No, the mudroom.
That's a hallway.
We haven't considered mudrooms as rooms.
So now
before.
it's going down to 9 rooms for a 4-bedroom is the way I see it. But
Okay, so that should be okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And the
Okay.
garage doesn't, is it just a 1-floor garage with no like bonus room on top of it?
Correct.
It's literally just a garage.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
So we based the +1 on going from the assessor's count of 3 bedrooms to this proposed layout of 4 bedrooms or 9 rooms.
Yeah, this seems pretty.
Yeah, that works.
reasonable. Yeah. Okay.
While we're on this subject, if we could continue down the road a little bit, ultimately what the owner would like to do is stay with a 4-bedroom house, but he would like to finish off a room in an outbuilding. There's an existing barn on the property, and he would like to put a room down there with a bathroom and eliminate the basement in this house here. So he still stays at 9 rooms.
You
main
mean
house would stay the same, the basement would go away, and he would have in one of the outbuildings that have a separate room that he could tie into the septic system. So that's down the road a little bit, but we just wanted to bring it to your attention to see if you saw any real issues with that.
I would say, Dan, is there any chance to make the 2 offices into 1 room? I mean, they're being described as bedrooms. I don't know what they look like. I mean, obviously we count rooms for that reason, because sometimes an office could be a bedroom could be an office. These being all on the 1st floor, it helps a little bit if you want to just relabel them. But are there any features in the offices like closets that could look like a bedroom and have it, a real estate agent could go through and say, well, this has a closet, it's perfect, it's a bedroom.
Yeah, so there are no closets, and actually the doors are pocket doors as well. So
okay, that helps. Yeah.
Okay.
And then in this plan here, what you're seeing is that, you know, the basement is, you know, a single room now too. So.
Oh, so you're gonna take down I don't know if it's a demising wall between them or what.
Yeah, there's a solid demising wall between the 2.
Where's the other room that you're planning to put a bathroom in, and what's it
It's
look
in a different building, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a barn down on the property.
And just to give you a sense, the barn is about the same footprint as the current living room, so it's not a large barn.
Is there going to be a kitchenette in there?
In an ideal world, yes, but I think that's something that's flexible on that. You know, it's really intended to be kind of like in-law or family, when family comes, that they can stay there versus at the house.
Oh, so you're throwing them in the barn, are you?
Yeah.
Can I put my family there or?
A selling feature,
Okay.
right?
So it seems like you've been well advised by Dan by having 2 offices, because with the bathroom, which I assume you're going to want it to be a full bathroom in the barn, is going to make that officially a bedroom. So that'll be your 4th bedroom. I think you'll still be okay on the room count, but just so you know, that will be counting.
Understood. Yep, understood.
Okay.
It'll be at the
Again,
very,
this is,
very edge, like nothing more, right? You know?
yep, very much understood. And that's why we just wanted to be proactive and just share kind of the thought process. So.
Right, and then, yeah, adding a kitchenette starts to get tricky because for other homes that have had, say, a studio apartment setup sort of thing in an outbuilding, we've been treating those as 2 rooms, just so you know. So maybe you could do an electric tea kettle or a hot plate, but maybe not a kitchen. So.
Understood.
We could talk about the ins and outs of that at some other time, but it starts to, when we try to apply the same rules over and over, then there will have to be a line at some point.
Yep.
For that.
And the plan is, you know, when we submit to the building department, it'll be focused primarily on the house, and that would be kind of the previous plan that Dan had presented. So the barn itself would be a later date, a separate submission. And to your point, at that point, we could review what's available.
Yep.
And we would have to come back and modify the septic plan to show the piping back to the barn.
Okay. All right.
I can stop sharing my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was very helpful. Thank you. And were there any abutters to this project who have any questions? Maybe not. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen again. Okay. All right. So we'll go on to the variance requests. Do we have a motion to grant a variance to 8.01?
So moved.
Second.
Any other comments? Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, aye.
Did we lose Rebecca? Oh.
Becca, I totally dropped this for a second. Sorry about that. Back.
I hope you're still there. Are you?
Hear me?
Now we can.
Oh.
And now we can't.
Rebecca, I don't think we heard your vote. Can you just repeat it?
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye.
Okay, and do we have a motion to grant a variance section 8.02?
So moved.
Seconded.
Further comments? Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, aye.
I think your connection's having a little trouble.
Hear me?
Now we can.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye. Yeah, so it shows that I'm connected. I apologize.
Matt Vitale, aye.
Okay, so I'll close the hearing, and are the plans ready for approval?
Yes, they are, Daryl, conditional to a deed recording for the garbage grinder waiver. Or not
Okay.
waiver, but they're not designing for.
Yeah. All right. So do we have a motion to approve the plans with that condition?
So moved.
Second.
Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, aye.
Oh, we heard your name, but not your vote. Ooh.
Aye.
Excellent, thank you.
Matt Vitale, aye.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Hey,
All
Rebecca.
right, don't go far.
Rebecca, you might want to try just turning your camera off to save bandwidth and seeing if that helps your audio.
It has to
Okay, and it is 8:50, and we have a variance here for septic replacement at 32 Old Orchard by none other than Dan McIntyre.
Right.
I'll open up that in just a moment.
This is another property that has been sold and didn't pass the Title V inspection. The existing system is in the front yard and consists of a septic tank to a leaching pit. And then at some time over the years, there was an overflow trench added to that. But it didn't pass the Title V inspection. The well is in the backyard, and there are some wetlands to the right of the property. That's a town-owned parcel there with some walking trails, but it's a pretty significant wetland there that overflows to an intermittent stream across the front of the property through a culvert underneath the driveway and then off to another wetlands to the left of the property. So there's a few constraints on this particular lot. One being the wetlands and trying to minimize buffer zone impacts. And then it's also a very ledgy site. You can see some outcrops of rock throughout the front yard. During our soil testing, we were able to find enough soil that's suitable for a septic system. And we did position it to try to maximize our offset to the environmental resources. We are proposing to use an Elgin system, an alternative technology, in order to take advantage of the DEP's groundwater offset reduction that's allowed with that system. We are still going to be mounding up the front yard and blending it in with the existing mound around the home, but it will involve some tree removal in the buffer zone. We have gone to conservation. They've approved it. And I think that's about it. We're maintaining the well offset of 125 feet for the on-site well. There's no abutters wells encroaching into the property. And this is maintaining, this is an existing 4-bedroom house, and it's going to maintain a 4-bedroom house.
Okay, and I'll note that Ellen said all of the green cards were received. Okay. Any board members have any questions, or are there abutters to this property who have questions? Looks like a pretty tough site. These are interesting features to work around.
They were.
Yeah, quite a bit to set back from as well. Okay, Mark, any particular comments?
I think Dan explained it pretty well. Very restrictive site based on wetlands, ledge, enough soil. So I think this is about what is probably possible for the site.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, if there are no other comments or questions, right, we see the constraints all around here in blue, and a property line and a well taking up the back portion. So there's not much else here, really.
Right.
So appreciate you trying to set back from these water resources.
Yeah. Yeah, we are asking for a waiver for that. We're asking for the waivers on the groundwater as well as a setback to the wetlands. The regs require 125 feet.
Yeah, I see 100 here. And
yeah, so we're at about 64 feet outside the 50-foot Title V requirement. but within the Sherman 125-foot requirement.
Okay, but it's been through Conservation Commission
Yes.
already for their review and approval. All right. All right. So we'll move on to the variances themselves. Do we have a motion to grant a variance to section 8.01?
So moved.
Second.
And as he notes here, this 2 feet is allowed per Title V with the IA technology that's been approved by Mass DEP. And to go higher would be just difficult to mound in the yard?
Yeah, it would have required a retaining wall along the driveway because the driveway is right there.
Mm.
And that would severely limit access into the front yard.
Mm.
Or would have to do more tree removal in the wetland buffer.
Okay. All right, so Daryl, I.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca, we still haven't heard anything from you.
Is she on screen? Can we tell?
Aye.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Now.
Yep.
Yep. Did you say I? I heard an I, but I'm not sure.
Aye.
Okay.
Matt Vitale, aye.
All right. Do we have a motion to grant 0.0?
Hey, Daryl, we lost you.
Oh, do we have a motion to grant a variance to 8.02?
So moved.
Second.
Any other comments? Daryl, I.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I. Rebecca, we just can't hear you. You wanna, I do think like maybe turning your video off might help you. We can't hear you.
Or you could call in for audio.
Yeah, we hear kind of bits and pieces.
Aye.
Okay, I heard
Okay.
aye. Matt Vitale, aye.
All right. And do we have a motion to grant a variance to 10.2, which is wetland offset, which has been reviewed by Concom?
So moved.
Seconded.
Further comments? Daryl, I.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
I think Rebecca fell off.
Okay, we'll keep going.
Matt Vitale, aye.
All right. Do we have, and these are local upgrade waivers. Do we have a motion to grant a variance to 15.4051H?
So moved.
Second.
Any other comments? Daryl, I.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I. I see her trying to connect, but it's not on yet. Oh. Rebecca, it's up to you.
We're on
Well,
50.
aye.
Okay,
Matt Vitale, aye.
all right. So that can close the hearing now. And are the plans ready for approval?
Yes, they are, Darrow, conditional to the deed recordings for both the IA technology and the garbage grinder.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the plans with those two conditions?
So moved.
Second.
Daryl, I.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, I.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye.
We heard you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Dan.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Are there any people on who are waiting to hear something in particular, maybe something under agents business? Because we could take those items first. Mark, do you have a suggestion?
Daryl, I thought there were people on for 7 North Main, but maybe I'm mistaken.
Mary Ann Clancy just wrote it in the chat.
Okay, so Mary Ann Clancy's ready to hear out 7 North Main Street. I can present if you'd like.
Okay.
My name is Greg Broussard. I'm the new owner at 7 Main Street or North Main Street.
Okay. Which of the documents would be most useful?
Well,
The
the test
Title V inspection with water analysis or the DEP email?
I would suggest maybe starting with the Title V review and then going
Okay.
the lab
To the
report
DEP.
to the DEP.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
So the board received letter, a Title V report last Thursday night, late evening. We hadn't received it, but it was indicated that we should have had it because it was done back on May 19th. And we did not. So we received notice from the real estate agent, who I thought I saw on here too, who was selling the property. Maybe I didn't see her.
And Tom, yeah, she's on.
That there was, you know, a Title V. So she forwarded to us, and within the Title V, it shows the wells, as you show here, 77 feet from the soil absorption system, the leaching area, which in turn requires water testing. And that falls under this section further down. It's a system that conditionally passes further down. I'm sorry, it's a little ways down. It's further down. There's a lot of conditions to there. Oh, you just passed it, but well, sorry, Daryl. I think it. But anyways,
Going?
you have to test for bacteria. Nitrate is nitrogen, and nitrate is nitrogen was the concern. It showed up greater than 5 parts per million.
Right.
That's the state's requirement under Title V.
Daryl, I think you can go up.
Yeah, it was up there.
Oh, I was going to go to the.
It's under number 3.
Yep, and then the data's at the end.
Yeah, I was going to go to the data.
So
Yeah,
if you're
it's
going to
it's
the lab
almost
report-
10.
the lab report would be right at the end, Daryl, so that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
So as you go to that point, so the nitrate is nitrogen showed up, I think, at 9.78.
Very close to double. Yep.
Yes, and so I talked to Claire Golden, the DEP representative who I go to when I have questions, because I was confused too a little bit by the fact that the EPA standard is 10 parts per million for nitrate as nitrogen. And they explained to us that is more, it's more restrictive in Title V, 9.71. I just saw that there. It's more restrictive in Title V because the standard set by the EPA is more for testing drinking water, especially public drinking water, on a norm, which is not just once and that's it. So that's why, you know, we got this email, and Claire was she got a hold of me as well. So what we have now is for the board to make a decision, and a decision on if you want the water tested more routinely, if you're considering, because I know somewhere in the mix, I don't know if it was the new homeowner or the past homeowner or someone wanted to offer some type of treatment system. So the board has some decisions to make.
Although, Mark, isn't this like, I mean, this seems like it's a Title V issue. Like it didn't pass Title V based on those criteria.
Exactly. Well, it passed it conditional to the Board of Health's further review. So unfortunately, Matt, they put it back on our lap. I asked Claire that. I said, well, what do you recommend? She says it's up to your board to decide what they'd like to do at this point.
And so from the state standpoint, it is not passing in that it's greater than 5.
Correct.
But we could then set up, and so would that then be a passing Title V inspection, just with a kind of
Whatever you do would be a passing Title V inspection with conditions, if the board so wishes to set conditions.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Which couldn't,
oh, sorry. So I was just gonna say from like a environmental health standpoint, you know, I mean, 5 is better than 10. And that I think if you're, you know, 10 is sort of the EPA limit, but that, like we just said, that's based on much more frequent sampling and monitoring. So we have 2 choices. You know, one is that we could require more frequent monitoring to confirm that it stays below 10 on, you know, whether that's a quarterly basis. And by the way, these analyses are not expensive. They're pretty cheap to get it done. So, you know, I would feel uncomfortable relying on like a single test to make any kind of decision, and would recommend that we do ask for some increased monitoring for like a year to just see how it looks and if it can stay, you know, below 10, preferably below 5. That would be my environmental health recommendation.
And I think that's a good suggestion. Other conditions of the same type are set for innovative alternative technologies that require testing every so often. So I think that's a fair opportunity, I guess, or a fair opportunity for the owners and for the board to decide on.
all right, and then the other choice is having some sort of treatment system put in,
That's
which
true.
frankly, unless that's getting routine testing, you may not know how it's performing necessarily. So testing is not a bad route. Now we have the new owner here, it sounds like. So are there any comments you would like to make?
The one concern I would have is obviously the
Consider.
Title V is contingent, or the sales contingent on a Title V passing. So a year-long period to conduct additional testing certainly doesn't solve that Title V passing issue. We had discussed potentially the requirement to add a treatment system into the house to hopefully reduce the nitrate to nitrogen levels, but we really were looking for some guidance and expertise from the board and Mark as far as the best way forward to ensure a safe drinking water for a home that meets the EPA requirements.
Yeah.
So with the bank or financing issue, I mean, one resolution would be that the board requires ongoing testing, and I guess we'd have to be specific about it at this point. You know, once or twice a month for 12 months, and then if the results are below X, then after that, every 2 years. I mean, I'm not saying this is exactly what it would be, but it could be something along those lines that would then, if I'm understanding Mark's interpretation or what he heard from DEP, is that it's up to us to pick what would allow this to pass, whether it's a testing regime or a treatment regime or both.
Yeah, and that's how I heard it from DEP, Darryl.
Yeah.
You're pretty much right on the point.
So could we make like a conditional, you know, approval that is contingent upon, you know, testing over a period of time, and that if it stays high, then requiring treatment? Or if I guess if the homeowner is willing to put in the capital expenditure to put the treatment system in now, then, you know.
Right, then just do that.
Yeah.
I think
May
the
I
Board
make
of,
a-
the Board
may I
of
say
Health,
something?
the Board of Health is very
No.
interested in helping them get their project through, but the Board of Health also needs to have a conservative approach that protects drinking water, because this is an area that has a history of problems, and we need to have a backup plan. So I don't think we should do I do not think it's a good idea for us to just push this through. I think we need to take each step carefully and thoughtfully.
I don't think anybody said that, Rebecca. So I think we're talking about what kind of conditions and requirements we would put on to approve it. Nobody was saying let's just pass it. So I take offense at that.
I didn't hear you. I didn't accuse you of saying that. I'm just saying that I don't think we should be having conditional approval. I think that we should have each step thoroughly evaluated and discussed in that way because of the risks.
So what do you suggest specifically then, Rebecca?
I don't think it's good. Not come back to make sure really carried through. The conditional approval times is helpful because it prevents things from coming back to the meetings, but it's also beneficial times to come back to the meetings to make sure things are properly done. And
Sure. So that's fair, Rebecca, but I'm just wondering, what do you suggest we do then in lieu of a conditional approval? Like, do you have a specific plan for how we should work through this?
That this discussion is good. We should keep doing what we're doing.
The previous owners had agreed to install a filtration system if that was necessary to reduce the nitrate levels to less than 5 parts per million. And I think that would provide for a more timely resolution to the increased nitrate levels based on the system that I thought that was anticipated to be installed. As the homeowner, I'm a little concerned about a year-long schedule to do continued testing in order to meet the Title V requirement, because it doesn't resolve what is typically a condition to receive financing and approvals for a home sale.
All right,
so I think we weren't saying.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm not sure we were saying like wait a year, test again, and your Title V doesn't get passed till then. I think we would probably say more likely, we move ahead, but you have to continue testing. I'd be open to either option, and ideally maybe both, a filtration system and then continue testing to ensure that it's functioning properly.
Yeah, I mean, we have to confirm the efficacy of whatever treatment system is there. But I just want to make it clear to everyone, the EPA health-based standard is 10, which was not exceeded. So it's not like I think like an urgent health crisis with this number. It's higher than we would like to see. So I think either one of these options can work and be protective and is appropriate. But if you're willing to put in a treatment system now and then, do testing post facto, I think that's a great option.
Yes, I agree with that because, no, hold on just a minute. The board is still discussing. So given that the downtown area tends to be higher in nitrogen compounds than elsewhere, there's a possibility that this was just a peculiar result, but there's also a strong possibility that this is a representative result of what might be found there over time. So if putting in the treatment system makes things simpler on the financial front and is financing front and is acceptable to the owner, then that would be fine with me. Anyone else on the board want to comment?
I would echo that. I think, I guess a question I have for Lisa and Daryl is, to what extent, if any, is the nitrate load a proxy for sort of other contaminants? I know the fecal coliforms are undetectable, but if we're doing testing, I would favor continuing to do testing for both. But would love your thoughts on that.
I think that's reasonable. Because they could both be indicative of potential, sort of septic overload, so to speak. So I think that makes sense. And like we said, they're very low cost items, but I mean, a simple treatment system hopefully could take care of any of these issues. And then, a couple of tests post facto could confirm, like we said, that the system is effective, and that could serve everybody's purpose.
And Mark, did you get a chance to find out what the typical treatment system is for nitrogen compounds?
They do have some out there. I was checking into one that is reduced treatment that reduces the nitrate as nitrogen. I think it's an ionic type of treatment. So Again, I wouldn't recommend, because if it doesn't reduce it, then I'm gonna be the one, but they could
Yeah.
contact well filter companies or well drillers even, and they could recommend.
Okay, and there are a couple of reasons I'm bringing that up. So as you, let's say that the choice becomes the treatment system, the question is, will it address any other potential contaminants, yes or no? You know, the nitrogen may be a marker for other things, as was raised. Also, if it's a kind of system that, say it was, I don't think this works on nitrogen compounds, but granular activated carbon, that needs to be changed out. So you need some mechanism of knowing when to change that out. So that might involve ongoing testing. And then when systems are put in formally, Mark, for the whole house treatment systems that we've had installed elsewhere in town, is there an ongoing requirement for testing, or does that just fall then to the homeowner to follow the guidance of who's ever provided and or installed the treatment system as to how to monitor it over time?
And once they do have the treatment system in, a deed recording is required. So if the house sells, the new owners will know not to remove the filter system because it's there for a reason. So that is one document that does help to make sure future homeowners know why the filter's there. But to answer your question, as it relates to putting in a filter or treatment system, they test after that treatment system, and if the results are within the standards, that's all that's required at that time. But the deed recording covers future owners from knowing. I will say we always recommend to new homeowners and present homeowners, anyone with a well, to test their well on a yearly basis for bacteria, and every 3 years for the full testing that we require for a new well. And if they're having any trouble, such as we are discussing nitrate as nitrogen, that they test it yearly.
I think that's reasonable. And by the way, Daryl, it's really, usually it's ion exchange or reverse osmosis, I think, are the most common treatment approach for the nitrate. I mean, the carbon is really more for the organics versus the inorganic. Right. So, yep. And I do think like an annual test is not a bad idea. Like, I don't know, how receptive people might be to that, but, even after you install a system, you do a test to, confirm effectiveness, but having like an annual test, I would say would be a really useful sort of program, and super inexpensive. It's not very costly. So
right, and it fits right in with testing of wells because groundwater moves. So the pitfall, and you'll just have to talk to firms about the pitfalls of different things. Carbon, you have to change. Ion exchange resins, you'd have to change or regenerate. I doubt homeowners regenerate, though that's more of an industrial level thing. And then reverse osmosis, you have a big reject stream that you have to dump into the ground and you can't put it into your septic system. Those are just examples of like other aspects of operating them that make sure you talk to whomever about the system to understand that ongoing cost and duties associated with it.
And I see in the chat, I think Marianne's hoping to make a comment on behalf of the sellers when it's an appropriate moment to do so.
So, well, if no one else has a comment right now, we could go to Marianne. Anybody else on the board? Nope. Okay, Marianne.
Okay, I actually spent a lot of time and done a lot of research on this, and actually it's not what she wrote here, Claire. It's not 5 milligrams per liter, it's 5 parts per million, but that's neither here nor there.
Those are the same things, Marianne.
I know.
It's 5 ppm. It's the same exact.
Yes, it's the same thing.
Can I finish? Can I say something, or would you rather?
No, but I'm just
correcting
correcting
you
it.
if you want to finish. Go ahead.
We're just correcting your correction.
Well, actually, just so I can, I used to teach math. 5 part per million is very, very close to 5 milligrams per liter. There's a slight difference, but anyhow, what they're looking for is 5 parts per million, and I do agree it's extremely close. What I will say is that if you notice the water test, I think if the fear is that this is coming from the septic system, I did talk to a scientist who I have a lot of respect for, knows, very brilliant gentleman. He said it is highly unlikely when ammonia to nitrogen is non-detected, as in this test, that it's coming from the septic system. It is probably coming from fertilizer or nutrients that people put in their soils, and people do it all over town. So he said that if it were coming from the septic system, you would probably see ammonia to nitrogen in the sample. We did make an agreement that we would put in a new system. Daryl asked this question, and I was interested in your answer. I've seen a lot of houses where new construction, the well water comes up with nitrates, and I've never seen anybody say that they have to continue testing, but maybe that should be a rule for everybody in town, not just specifically this well. I would say,
Marianne, I think part of that is because the well and the septic system are closer to the guidelines. Is that correct? As a selling agent?
Yeah, I understand
100
that.
feet.
Right. So again, like we would grant new construction where people required that variance. I think this is a specific condition to a variance that was granted to assure oversight. So when you say lots of people have that and it's not required, I think that's a mischaracterization.
Okay. All right. Well, I do think that this scientist probably had a good point. So it's that it's probably not coming from that. The owners did send me an email saying that on May 29th to the 31st, they put in nutrients and fertilizer in the grounds. They did a lot of fertilizing at that time. It was a nitrate-rich fertilizer. They think that's what caused it to spike. Nevertheless,
I think the samples from, Marianne, the samples from May 21st. So that would be 8 days after the sample is taken.
I'm just reading what they sent me, okay?
No, but again, like I think, like this, Daryl, can you just scroll down? I think May 21st was the sample. Is that correct?
No.
We just want to make sure the record's correct. So certainly something applied 8 days after the test wouldn't explain the result.
I didn't read it correctly. They said that in May, mid-May, days before the testing of the water, 50 pounds of nitrate-rich fertilizer were put down on our grass by our lawn care company. On May 29th to 31, it rained a combined 3 inches, washing the nutrients in that fertilizer into the water table.
Right, but
and I'm not saying that they're right or wrong. I'm just telling you, I'm just the messenger. All
right.
That's fine. And we're just noting for the record that the test was taken before that rainfall.
Yeah, it was 10 days before, you know.
Okay.
Let's put on the.
All right. So
here's the bottom line. All right. I'll wait till you're finished.
Go ahead.
Bottom line is the sellers, the original sellers, are willing to put in a nitrate filtration system. We have talked to filtration companies. We even are willing to put in a whole house system instead of a reverse osmosis, which simply addresses the kitchen water, because the drinking water, because we felt that you would want that instead of a reverse osmosis. They would much prefer to do reverse osmosis because it's a lot cheaper. But if I said the Board of Health will never go for that, they're going to want the biggest and most expensive. So we went with a whole house filter system, and they're willing to do that. And I think the homeowner, the current homeowner, you know, it's going to be up to him to continue testing if you want him to do that. But I'm simply trying to say that based on the research, based on the scientist I talked to, it's highly unlikely that this is coming from the septic. I know the state has rules. We have to follow those rules. but it's
Okay,
highly
and,
unlikely.
all right. So we've got a bunch of techie people on the board and who work on this kind of thing. So I think we're okay on deciding on that. Just for clarification, this will be a whole house system no matter what. Reverse osmosis is not something that has to be limited to a kitchen sink. There are enormous systems for industrial applications. So you can go from anything from a kitchen sink up to something that's supplying water into giant furnaces in industrial facilities with reverse osmosis. So that is not size, scale, we're not really limited in that regard. It's getting the system that's going to work the best for removing the nitrogen compounds. So that should be the goal. And I don't know how you at this point, the person who's on the call tonight is already the homeowner. So really, I believe the decision is going to be in their court in terms of identifying and choosing a system, yes or no? Do we need to be
Are you
negotiating?
asking me as the homeowner?
Excuse me?
I apologize for interrupting. Were you asking me for my opinion, or were you just kind of stating your position?
Yes.
My goal in this is to have a system that works to reduce the nitrate level to below the state threshold. So, and I would like to basically have something in place where we have a system installed, take a battery of tests to confirm that it's beneath the maximum threshold, and hopefully that would alleviate any sort of continued obligation I have to report, I guess, nitrate levels in the future, that we would be satisfied with whatever system's installed is sufficient to reduce the nitrate levels to an acceptable level.
Yes, there are notions about what does and does not constitute an appropriate system. Didn't sound quite right to me. So if it's up to you to identify the system, just be aware of that and find someone appropriate to recommend systems to you. Okay, if that's the route we choose to go. So right now I'm inclined towards a treatment system for the reasons of it is downtown where this seems to be an ongoing issue. So perhaps it's something they're willing to do. It makes...
my one suggestion is, this is a contract between two parties. I think we should just say, like, there's a negotiation, whatever remains between, Greg and the previous homeowners. I think for us, I think we should say, it sounds like the board's consensus is it should be a treatment system, that there should be a period of monitoring that can be bounded to demonstrate efficacy. But I think being specific to this particular property and circumstance, rather than a general state of downtown, just kind of keeps it a little bit cleaner. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
No,
I don't think we need to dictate what kind of treatment system that it's up.
No, I don't want to dictate.
Right. I mean, so the
that at all.
performance standard is that, like, we'd like to see it less than 5, and we would like to have post installation test, maybe within 2 weeks or a month of, post system installation, demonstrating efficacy. And, I think that seems like a reasonable approach. And then they would need a deed recording, like Mark said.
Yep. And I think the long-term evaluation of the system's performance then, like everybody else in town with the well, falls on the homeowner to keep on top of it, as we should all be testing our well water. So
what if anything do we need to vote on? Do we need to vote pass Title 5 with the following conditions?
Yeah, I think going back
In section C, Darrow
was
C.
that under 3 as well? What?
You want to go to section C, just go up a little bit. Yeah, keep going, I believe.
Okay. I think it was, all right. All right. So I guess we're addressing something here.
Yeah, you're
The
not
decision.
addressing section in Title V that it quotes. You're addressing the water test,
Yeah.
or it falls under that same section.
Right, since
C3, I
basically
think it
this
is.
has kicked it back to us in terms of evaluating.
And
All
there it
right.
is. You just had it with the well
Yep.
there. Yep.
Okay,
It's the next one down, I believe, Darryl.
yeah.
C3. Just wants to jump away from you every time you. There it's coming up. C3 right there.
Let's go a little bit more.
And then you go down to the well section here. Yep.
Or,
Where it's
am I
X.
still going? I'm
No,
not seeing language
just-
that,
You just went by it. It's the X on the C3.
C3.
Sorry.
B.
A little bit, right
Yeah.
there.
Right there.
Yeah, no, I was here.
Yeah.
So,
There you are.
determined system will pass unless it determines not functioning in a matter system. There's nothing here that says
Yep. Keep going
that
down.
the system will
Keep going down.
pass provided with, a treatment. System will fail.
Okay, just keep going down a little bit more down, right there where that X box is. And just stay right there. And then you'll see further, the system passes if the well water analysis, da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
It didn't pass, so now the board has to make a determination, because where that two asterisks are, that's the part we're dealing with, that it did not. So the failure, so because it's over 5 parts per million, that's what the board will have to decide now what they want to do.
Right. So there isn't anything on here that would. All right, so we're
There's no direct-
leapfrogging from here. There's nothing on here that says, and because of these conditions, A, B, and C that have been marked off, the distance, the failure to be below 5, as indicated by the water analysis, thus treatment. There's no other box for that. We have
No,
to.
there isn't. Unfortunately,
Okay.
P doesn't really give us guidance. They kind of left us on our own on this, and it's unfortunate. But that's why I was suggesting we look at it like we do when we might find a contaminant that needs to be filtered, and what we do for that would be to have treatment and a deed recording.
Yeah.
And sometimes if that wasn't the case, then the only other opportunity I think would be to test on a routine basis with the deed recording, noting it. A deed recording is always the tool that seems to come in handy when it comes to.
Okay, you just went on mute, I believe.
I was just saying, as it relates to the deed recording, it's a tool that we've used many times to make sure that in the future,
Right.
It doesn't get lost, more or less, that it's always on record.
Okay, so we're going to have a motion, something along the lines of, because the well is less than 100 feet from the SAS and the nitrogen compounds are above 5 ppm, we're going to require a treatment system. And I want to be careful about saying treatment versus filtration, because there's nitrogen reducing technology, which is not filtration. So I'm not sure that, we shouldn't use only the word filtering, because it could be bigger, more options and approaches than that. So does that sound right to anybody? The general gist? And then how do we formally reference the Title V report? Right, because aren't we springboarding off of this Title V and then making a decision on the results? I don't think we've had to do this before. Have we, Ellen, do
this
we
is
have a
new.
template for this?
So we're following, so C is other, right? So we're making the other determination, providing the performance standard, which is that, you know, resident will install treatment system to remove nitrate, to reduce nitrates in potable water, and post-installation efficacy will be demonstrated by collection of sample, you know, whatever we want, Mark, like, I don't know, 2 weeks or 1 month after installation or something along those lines, right?
Yeah, you could set up a time parameter. That would be a good situation to give them a couple weeks to 4 weeks to let it run for a while to make.
You don't want to do it right after. Yeah.
All right.
But it also needs to be monitored longitudinally.
I don't think we can require that, Rebecca, because if they can demonstrate that they have met the 5 ppm with the treatment system, and we're requiring a deed recording that all subsequent homeowners will be aware that there's a system that's necessary and running, they will have to test it before any other transaction. So I don't think we can really go beyond that in terms of our, you know, requirements. I don't know, Rebecca or Mark, do you?
Well, we're the Board of Health, and if this is the, what is the, this is the structure that's going to be used, that will, it's not only at the time of sale that it will be relevant to the town.
No, but they're going to be testing it after they install the system, right? So, you know, like when a new well, a potable well is put in at a new house, we require a test that shows that they meet all of the potable water standards prior to transaction or prior to use of that new well. We don't say, and you have to prove it every year. We don't say that. So I don't think we can go beyond that in terms of our requirements for this. But I think between the demonstration of efficacy 2 to 4 weeks after system installation, and then a deed recording, we are being, you know, appropriately protective.
And I agree with Lisa that we just want verification that the treatment system selected will perform as it should, but then the long-term maintenance and tracking of its ongoing performance is up to the homeowner rather than us specify.
This is the homeowner, and I wholeheartedly agree, just because in this particular instance, you are the Board of Health making that Title V determination, which is a prerequisite for every sale. And you typically do not require continued testing for the water through the whole duration of the homeowner's occupancy. So I would presume that once you are able to satisfy the Title V obligation, that would meet the criteria to pass the test. And I mean, speak for my wife and myself to do that, we would be responsible for any sort of continued testing while we continue to use this home, and then would have to go through some sort of formal Title V testing process again when we decide to sell the home. So my expectation through this process is that we would do whatever is necessary, and it seems like a installation of a filtration / treatment system would be maybe the best initial step to take to drop it below the 5 parts per million threshold. But once we do that, I would think that we would satisfy the Title V obligation for your purposes, and then that any further testing would be solely our responsibility until we're in the position to sell the house again. Does that make sense?
I think that sounds reasonable. And I think we certainly see this when you sort of say, you know, probably 70 or 80% of the septic system replacements we see are because the real estate transaction demonstrated a failed Title V. And so I think that, you know, what we can then infer is that there are probably many properties today that have systems that are not performing appropriately, and we don't have a blanket mandate for everybody to do Title V testing on a periodic basis or well testing. And while it might be appealing in a specific circumstance to invoke that, I think we have to continue to take that general approach of, you know, this is a sort of gatekeeping function.
Mm-hmm. Right, triggered by the fact that the well is less than 100 feet required by, here we go. required by Mass DEP standards for separation of the SAS and wells. Otherwise, a water sample isn't always taken. So how about if we say, in light of the findings of the 5/19/2021 Title V inspection that identified a well less than at 77 feet from the SAS, which is less than 100 feet, and the finding that the nitrate nitrogen was greater than 5 parts per million, that a whole house nitrate nitrogen reduction system will be required and shall be tested 1 month after installation to demonstrate efficacy at achieving less than or equal to 5 parts per million of nitrate nitrogen.
And the deed recording.
And the deed recording.
I'm good with that.
Any other additions to that or adjustments?
Sounds reasonable to me.
Okay. We ready? Would anyone like to move that?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further comments? Okay, Daryl, aye.
Matt Beaver's aye.
Lisa, aye.
Becca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye.
Okay. Phew. All right, another new something, another precedent set.
Daryl, may I say one more thing about this, not about this particular one, but about, because I do, well, I thought I sold a lot of real estate. I've never seen this particular situation before. But I would like to suggest that perhaps the board needs to look into this further, because I can tell you quite frankly, this is not the first one that did not come in below 5 parts per million. As a matter
but was it with a well within 100 feet of the septic? That is what makes this unique.
I understand that, yes. And I will also say that this particular property came in, and the sellers went through a tremendously traumatic experience when this surfaced, because when they purchased this property, we went back and looked at the test results and they were above 5 parts per million. So I don't know if the board might want to consider reviewing Title V's when they come in, because what happened in this situation is the previous owner sold it and got away with it, so to speak. And now this current owner has to pay the price of what passed the last time and probably shouldn't have. And I have seen many that have passed that shouldn't.
Marianne, wouldn't that, I mean, again, like, there's nothing for the board to sign off on. Like, isn't some part of that the due diligence for the kind of listing and purchasing agent to help homeowners navigate that?
Yeah, or the company performing if the company performing the Title V incorrectly passed it, then like that's an issue, right?
That is a big issue. And as a matter of fact, I will tell you, I've talked to 2 engineers who'd never heard of 5 parts per million. I'm not kidding. And I've talked to
engineers.
It sort of doesn't matter whether they've never heard of it. It's in the code, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Never mind. I'm not going to try and speak over. I'm not going to try and finish the sentence if you don't want to hear it. I'm just simply saying that perhaps the board does need to review Title V's when they come in. I know the town of Dover reviews.
So just so you know, Marianne, we review as many Title V's as possible, but you know that Sherborn is cheap. We don't have a big staff. There are limitations on that. So
okay, I'm just saying
done
that
what it can be done, and sometimes things are unfortunate. I don't know how long ago.
2 years. 2 years.
Yeah, but again, I would just say, like, totally hear your feedback, Marianne. What I'd say is, you know, from my standpoint, I think that I can also picture people saying, boy, you know, what's the regulation that you're inserting your nose into our real estate transaction, and what was your turnaround time in providing the review? Like, it then goes with a whole litany of, you know, how timely does that review need to take place for a transaction that may need to be closed quickly? How does that integrate with the other business of the board that has regulatory requirements for how rapidly it's turned around. So I totally hear that it would be desirable. I think if the town wants to invest more resources to support that, it's certainly something that could be
Well, I
considered.
know in the
It's also-
town of Dover, Title V has a $50 fee for Board of Health to review each Title V, not the Board of Health, the agent, to review each Title V. So maybe that's something you might want to consider.
I would also,
but I would also say, like, I think the whole, like, again, like, I don't want to take the responsibility on the board to say you passed or you didn't pass Title V. Like, again, I think that's on the homeowner to sort of say, does it have a passing Title V? If they don't do that, or if their agent doesn't do that, then they're stuck with that bag and they're going to, you know, bear
But you're
the burden.
suggesting a homeowner or the agent should decide whether Title V
No,
passes?
so Marianne,
it said it didn't
We
pass.
have other appointments. I think this
Yeah.
is.
we got to wrap this up.
Marianne,
never
if
mind,
you would
never
like
mind.
to,
Do whatever you want. It doesn't make any difference. I don't care. It's
Okay,
fine.
that's
I
not
just
really,
gave a
that's not fair, Marianne.
suggestion.
If the homeowner
That's
wants
all.
to go back to the company that performed the prior Title V, point out to them that they incorrectly passed it, they may have recourse. And they are welcome to do so, but that's not a matter we need to decide before the board tonight.
and if you can send in something in writing from you saying that you would support an additional fee to support this in town as a requirement, that would be really helpful to us because the Board of Health gets an enormous amount of pushback on any kind of increases on fees and requirements. So coming from you as an agent real estate agent would be very helpful. So if you could send that in, that would be great. Okay? Or for you to consider then. All right.
So Daryl, if I may,
Yes.
I didn't recognize Julia. She's the homeowner of 19 Woodland. And they're also on the agenda. Actually, I didn't know who was here first, Marianne or Julia. So I apologize if Julia was here before. The homeowner, Greg, as well as Marianne. But she has been patiently waiting, and I don't know if you want to go to that agenda item or not.
We have a 9:50. I mean, did we do all of the? We didn't do 32.
Yeah, we did.
Yep,
Oh,
32 Orchard
okay,
was the last one.
oh yeah, we did do that. Okay, cool.
So.
Daryl, if you'd like, I can.
Hey, hi, this is Paul Solnier. Any chance you could do 810 Kendall Ave?
I'm sorry, Paul. I didn't know who the Paul was. You didn't have your
Oh
last.
yeah.
Well, I didn't know you were here for that. Were you here before Julie? I don't know who was here first. That's all.
I think they were both here at the same time. So.
I mean, I logged on at 7:15, so I've been here since then.
And Paul was on the agenda originally.
All right, so let's do.
Woodland was added later.
Okay, so which are you, Paul?
Well, I'm here to offer any help or just listen to the discussion on 810 Kendall Avenue.
810, okay.
And I'm here as well. This is Bill Bernard for Constance Ty representing 8 Kendall Ave.
All right, let's do that
I
then.
apologize, Daryl. They both had no last name, so I should have recognized. I should know who the real Paul is, but anyways.
Okay, so there are 6 documents. Which one would be most useful to kick off this?
810 Kendall, is that correct, Daryl?
Yeah.
I would suggest what happened was the board reviewed this prior in respect to room count on the floors, and the homeowner, it was on when we were looking at the, I forget what it was, but we had required a deed recording because what we saw originally was not what came in after the fact. So they're trying to clarify that, and with good reason. The room count definitely changes now, where it won't be as many rooms as originally as it presently has.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, I wanted the board to see the new floor plans. They're breaking down less. They're having less rooms, is what they're doing. So these new floor plans here, I believe.
Yes,
So-
that's the first. That's the
Go ahead, Bill.
That's the first floor right now.
Right now, correct.
Yeah, that's the first. That's the first floor, the revised first floor. It's just 3 rooms. kitchen, a bedroom, and a family room. It's a single bedroom apartment on the first floor.
Okay.
So the second floor is the changeover, correct, Bill?
Well, originally the first floor was going to have 4 rooms.
I see.
And with Connie, my mother-in-law being, 90 years old and having to, at some point, probably being, have some mobility issues. We decided to make the hallway larger, make the bedroom bigger, make the bathroom accessible to her. So, we made that first floor more conducive to her needs.
Okay.
Well, we have 3 on the first floor.
Yep, 3 on the first floor.
And you confirm no basement rooms. And
There are no basement rooms. No, we couldn't do a basement room anyway, Mark, because of the it's a rubble stone foundation that's leaks that leaks and we have a drainage system in there. It would be impossible to put any type of room in the basement.
Yeah. And so now the second floor revised, that's the one I hadn't seen. So I think we were counting more rooms that were proposed or existing.
Yes.
But now you're going down to another almost replica of the first floor to some degree.
Correct.
Yeah. So you have 1, 2, 3. So you have 6.
Yes. And then there was there's a bedroom number 2, which would be the second bedroom for the second floor apartment. That's in the old, that was an existing finished conditioned loft area. And
So-
that remains intact. It's been renovated, but it's.
So the proposal is to go 7 rooms total, 3
Correct.
bedrooms, 2 kitchens, 2 living rooms, 3 bedrooms.
Correct.
Okay. So with that said, originally it could have been that you were going over the room count, but now with only 7 rooms, 3 bedrooms would suffice for not requiring a deed recording.
Okay, looks reasonable. Is that what we're after, is 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yes, and this is the actual as-built plans. I mean, they're not 100% to scale, but this is the actual as-built plans.
do we have the deed recording that was going to be recorded in the mix? I can't remember.
I have it, the one that was going to be required.
Yeah, was that for being up to reducing, what was it for 8 rooms, Ellen? Do you remember? Was it?
It just says.
Here it is.
that-
We have it here, Ellen. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, good. There it is.
Yeah, which has 3 bedrooms and the basement shall remain unfinished. I think the board was applying that the septic system, I believe, was only a 3-bedroom.
And there were going to be a total of 8 rooms in the 2 separate apartments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, the
That
8 rooms,
from
4
the
bedrooms.
June 2nd.
Yeah, thank you, Ellen. You're right on it now. I had to remember myself. So with that said, I don't see the need for a deed recording with the 7 rooms. But if they did want to go to an 8th room, we're back to the deed recording.
No, that's what's been renovated, and that's how it's going to remain for hopefully many, many, many years to come.
Okay.
And that works for the family. That works for my mom. That works for Connie on the first floor. The second floor works for, if she decides to, to rent that space to a family member or whatever. It works for a small family, 2-bedroom apartment on the second floor. It works for the family. So.
I mean, some of these are still important about that attic space and basement not being finished, right? It just warns somebody that you can't just proceed with that until checking.
It could have been the 2 kitchens that provoked this a little bit too, now that I'm thinking back.
Yeah.
The board, usually if it's more than one kitchen, we get more involved.
There is still a considerable amount of attic space that is unconditioned, and what that will remain unfinished. So there's no future plans for that. We've no desire to finish any other space in the attic. So that was the bone of contention. I shouldn't say bone of contention, but that was what I brought forth to Mark. That particular statement that said the attic and basement shall remain unfinished, where you already have a section of what you could consider the attic that was finished, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, right. I do understand that.
And that's been a finished room since the house, since
Right.
1864. I think that's when the house was built. So.
Yeah, can anyone think of an easier way to, I was going to say the unfinished attic and basement shall remain unfinished, but that's not the best. Yeah, exactly, language. Anyone have any ideas on modification of language to clarify so that there's not some misinterpretation that that third floor bedroom is problematic, because it's not problematic. Okay, no ideas.
Maybe, Daryl, the
Other than the third floor bedroom, the attic shall remain unfinished, and then just say the basement shall remain unfinished, have 4 lines. Would that work? Does that work for you, Bill?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine
Okay.
for me, sure.
All right, Ellen, does that sound reasonable? And then just
Could you repeat that, please? What would you change in the deed recording?
Yeah, it'd be changes in deed recording. Are you seeing the deed recording now?
Yeah, would number 1 be the same?
Number 1 would be the same. Number 2 could be other than the third floor bedroom, the attic shall remain unfinished.
Or the remaining attic.
The remaining attic, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
The remaining attic shall remain unfinished.
Yep. And then a new number 3, and then number 3 becomes number 4, and then just say the basement shall remain unfinished for number 3.
Or you could say the remaining attic, other than the third floor bedroom, the remaining attic shall remain unconditioned. Is that viable language?
Unfinished could go 2 ways. It could be unconditioned. It could be not final finished surfaces. So unfinished is.
I'm fine with it either way.
Yeah, I think unfinished is okay.
Okay.
It's kind of more flexible.
Paul, have you got anything you should add?
No, I think I like Daryl's cut there. It included everything. So.
Yeah, we don't want you penalized for that room that we think is fine. So. Okay.
Right, that's why we came back in front of the board, so that just to clarify things.
Okay. Ellen, does this require a vote? That
should probably, because you had voted for a deed recording, so now you're voting to amend it.
Okay. And that encompasses that we've reviewed the plans and what have you. Do we need to formally approve the room layout, or no, it's implied that met our conditions? All right. So do I have a motion to approve the rewording of the deed restriction on room count?
So moved.
Seconded.
Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye.
Okay. It's exciting. It's like you're getting close on
Yes,
the
we are.
project.
Yes, we're
Yeah.
getting very close. Hopefully we'll have her in, well, once the septic system's been replaced, we'll be in good shape.
Okay, great.
So, moving right along.
Yeah, that was good progress.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for enduring until now.
All right, have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
All right, 19 Woodland.
Okay, Darryl, yes, I have it on the agenda. I've been working with the homeowner, the installer of the septic system, and the homeowner's here, but I don't see the installer. And they both were invited to this meeting. If the installer's here, please let us know. And also DEP. The installer did a pre-construction with us last November with the engineer and proceeded to install the replacement septic system at 19 Woodland. The pre-construction, within a month of that time, he was out installing, but it was through the tough winter months. The one thing about 19 Woodland is there was an extra condition that the installer provide us with the bill of lading or proof of disposal. What unfortunately happened here is when we went to do the soil observation holes prior to the septic installation, we found quite a bit of burnt out debris, and history says that this could have been an old dump for the town when they used to burn trash on properties and then bring the metal and glass that did not burn. So he did remove that and he screened it, and we have not yet received the bill of lading or the disposal receipts to show it was properly disposed of. Now, that is a separate situation from the entire installation. If we do not get those, I've been told by Claire Golden of DEP that I need to take action with the solid waste division, and they'll take it from there. So that leads us now to the general installation, and the installer is required to give us a letter of certificate, rather, of compliance for the installation and a certificate indicating that the old system was abandoned. He has not done that upon several requests. This all goes back to probably April, in that area. Continue action of asking for these, and he's not here tonight either. What Claire told us to do is, with no final sign off due to the installer being belligerent, and this is her wording, she said, then basically we can go out there, do the best we can to inspect. And Alan, correct me if I'm wrong too, but it doesn't replace his sign-offs. She said that a Title V inspection by a private Title V inspector would back up not having his sign-offs. So obviously that's a cost to the homeowner, and that's why I asked her to be here as well. And then, so if that's the case, we'll probably have to take that route. The only other matter that's separate from all the issues with the getting the right certifications is the fact that trees or shrubbery were put in close to the system area. And I did advise Julia in an email that we'll have to make sure those are at least 5 feet off the soil absorption system. So it's like a 3-part series: certifications, trash disposal, and shrubbery. They all come in different formats and handle different. It's very new to me. I've never had run into this before. Obviously, the homeowner is trying her best to interact with the installer, but that's a civil matter. I can't get involved with that. I can only handle this per the codes. But I did tell her I would bring it to the board just for your review to make sure it's a permanent record on file, and maybe, the Title V inspection to cover for the final sign-offs. That's something that, DEP is suggesting. I don't know if they can be required, but we will never have the installer sign-offs at this point, and that's all we basically can do. And he has been reported to DEP. They're aware of this, but we're limited on failure to submit the final certificates. And that's pretty much my summary. The homeowner is here if you want to, if it's up to the chair, Darryl, if you want to have her involved. Darryl, if you're not here, I guess Jeff, I just saw Jeff's hosting. Who's in, Matt, who's the chair right now?
I don't know. I think she made me co-host. Are you having trouble?
If Daryl's not here, what Standard said, Julia, you're welcome to make any comments or just know that we're generally just thinking, God, that sounds really painful.
Yeah. I'll text her again and leave you guys alone. But yeah, I guess she made me co-host without me knowing it.
Yeah, I just want to, and thank you very much for having us on the agenda. It's been, for me, it's been 3 years since I bought a house in 2018 with a failed septic system. A house was foreclosed and was owned by the bank located in Florida. So for me, it's a 3 years project by now and a huge amount of cost. So now we actually went beyond $100,000 for the septic system, including the huge amount of Title V approved sand and a waste disposal, and running into the contractor's issue with the installer who abandoned the project 4 months ago. And we reported to our Sherborn detective, and there is a pending investigation case on him. We also run into the electric issue with trying to pass the electric inspection with equipment which installer put together on the outside part of the septic system. So we used to work with the electrician, but in absence of any septic specific guidance, to find the appropriate equipment to install it and to pass the inspection again. And in this case, I don't think there is a chance for us to obtain this its installer certification, and I don't think there is a chance to obtain that bill of lading of waste disposal from him, because I just don't see what would prevent him to provide it in the first place when it was requested back in the 4 months ago. So we're just really looking for some movement here, whatever path we're supposed to take, what's under my control, because contractor is not under my control. If it's going to require Title V, I'm fine with that. Again, I just need to know what exactly needs to be done. In terms of trees, I also have no concerns if Mark will be able to stop by at some point and to look at the specific tree locations and point to them. We'll be able to remove them as soon as possible. It just, we've been trying to, we're losing, it's a third active season for us. It's a third year when my front yard is the most disastrous yard in the whole neighborhood. Believe me, that's true. All my kids going to school will all being asked if we're building a skyscraper in the front yard. So this is how famous it is for the 3 years. So we've been trying to work to start to place lawn, and the landscaper said that the trees will be really the prerequisite. So that's why we've been kind of rushing with the trees a little bit. But again, whatever is on the way and not supposed to be in those spots, I'm more than happy to remove it. I'm actually more than happy to do anything at this point that you can imagine. I just need those things to be under my control, because whatever the installer certification and waste disposal bill of lading is truly not under my control, and I just can't make this happen.
And so it sounds like. Oh, go ahead, Mark. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so it was back on April 6th, I sent Matt Gilmore, he's the installer, the list of pending items. I went into the house and there was a smell of sewer near the electric panel, which I couldn't reach. So I believe all that's been resolved. The electric panel is now properly in order. As Julia said, they hired an electrician to resolve whatever was wrong with it. I never got to see it, but I hoping now the pumps are working properly and there's no sewer odors. And then I just have to check for raised, so I do need to go in your house, Julia, just for that area, just for that part. And then I will check outside for the raised covers over the pump chambers. It's the certificates that may never come to fruition. If that's the case, and I'm glad, Julia, you understand that you will, that's about the only way we're going to get a certification without the installer's sign off. You can go wherever you need to after that. As I said, I know this is a civil matter between you and the installer. Just for the record, Julia, we received an email from the detective from the police department last week. He relinquished this case. He said it's a civil matter and I'm relinquishing it. I thought he had told you, but just so you know, that's what's happening with that. But again, and I wish you the best. I know you've been through a lot, and I know you want completion. So we'll do what we can do. And I'm glad the reason for tonight's meeting, I was hoping Matt would be here, Matt Gilmore, so we can find resolution for you. But unfortunately he's not, so I'll take my part. This will be again reported to DEP. He's from the other section of the state, the western section. I'm sure it will transfer down to that section. And that's about the best we can do on our side of this.
Yeah, I just wanted to note, Mark, that as one of the invoice items, which being under investigation of the police department, is actually some cost associated to the waste disposal. So if we are looking for the proof, so that may be the lead.
Do you have those, Julia?
I have an invoice which has an item with
Okay,
a
well,
cost
if I
in
can-
the waste disposal.
Okay, if you can give me a copy, that it will be helpful.
Sure.
And we just want, again, and that's another division within the Mass Department of Environmental Protection that I have to deal with. That doesn't deal with septic, they deal with solid waste. But yeah, that would be helpful when I go, we'll make an appointment in the next day or two. If you have something of a copy I can have, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah,
And Mark, can I just ask one clarifying question and one comment? I think the comment is for you, Sir Julia, which is I don't know if you were here for the discussion, the 810 discussion with 8 Mill, which was just a property that had the trees kind of overgrow their septic bed, and then that's part of why it failed. So as painful as it probably will feel to have things move backwards, that's the logic behind not having them too close to the system, because if the roots intrude, that'll impair the long-term function. Mark, I guess the follow-up question I have for you is the Title V inspection, essentially will say, we believe we have a functioning system.
Yes.
Are there any other points on, because I think, Julia, your ultimate goal is to say, I want to have a functioning system and I want to know that it's functioning, and there's sort of red flags related to this installation in terms of how things have been handled. And so I guess, Mark, is Title V the best possible way to assess the performance of the system? Or are there other things that Julia could do in that assessment in this phase that there may be civil litigation to further inform the performance? Because I'd hate to have something that failed prematurely or past now, and then have something else come out in 5 years.
It's a good question, and it's the only recommendation that DEP gave us.
Okay.
Ellen was on the call with me, just so I could write fast enough. That's why I said, Ellen, correct me if I'm wrong with what Claire relayed to me. But it will give her a Title V inspection, because unfortunately, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to get the installer certificates.
Okay. And so we think Title V, the guidance we have from the state is this is the test to do. And so we have no further testing we might recommend in addition to Title V to assess performance.
They just said do the full Title V inspection. Okay. They'll check the pumps again, and it shouldn't be difficult because it's a new system. It should be very easy for them to open the pump covers, they're going to check pretty much what I'm checking for, but more deeply. They'll open up the D box, make sure the pumps are working. The installer was going to do that with me, and he's just not communicating with me. That's all I can say at this time.
Okay.
Yeah, Matt, I also want to add that, believe it or not, I'm not that much concerned about the quality of the system. And the reason is because all the electrical part was carefully taken care by the electrician who I have a full trust for, and everything which is outside and related to excavation, actually testing and bringing sand and everything. So Mark was watching us pretty closely. So he was on the site almost every week. So I think just by the fact that those two parts had been overseen, had been kind of, had management over it and a second eye on it during that whole process, I'm not that much concerned about the quality. I think the quality should be relatively decent. It's just for us to get a final approval and not to have it pending for 3 years by now.
And that mechanism will give you 2 more years from the date of the Title V inspection. And if you pump it by the 3rd year from the date of the Title V inspection, you'll have 3 years of being able to sell your property if you so wish to, and have an active Title V certificate of some type.
Perfect. So Mark, is there anything you need us to vote on tonight, or this is kind of?
No, I was really hoping we could get resolution for the installer just to be there and finalize this, but obviously he didn't show to the meeting. And the next step is the Title V inspection after I do my inspection, or it can be done beforehand if you want, Julia. But as Julia said, and our electrical inspector confirmed, the electrical work that was done recently was in compliance with the electrical codes, because our electrical inspector confirmed that.
Perfect. Julia, good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right. I see Daryl back. Daryl, do you want to take over?
Yep, I'll bring up the agenda again and see where we are.
Perfect. I think we're up to FP King Excavating of Dover for a disposal works installer permit renewal.
Yeah,
That sounds great.
Mark still also has one item on his.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark. Let's do your item. My apologies.
That's okay. Thank you, Ellen. I almost forgot it's the time of night, I guess. We've run into some situations with what has happened in the past, first of all, for soil testing, and this is about soil testing out of season. The state has indicated Claire Golden again. I've been keeping Claire Golden very busy, that it's really our decision on how to determine if someone can test out of season for a failed septic system. So what we've run into is, we ran into one just recently where the well was closer than the 50, it was between 50 and 100 feet, which we didn't know because there was never a Title V inspection done to test out of season, although I think they tested in season, but that could happen. And other things can happen if we're offering local upgrade approvals, which we did quite a bit tonight, or if we're offering any IA technology allowances. You have to have a Title V inspection. So with that said, unfortunately, if we don't have a failed Title V inspection, we shouldn't be granting those local upgrade approvals. And just recently, someone requested soil testing out of season. And I told them you have to have a Title V inspection or a cesspool is what I would recommend. If your engineer decides to say it's failed, that has been the case in some situations where the engineer would just say, right, the system failed, but not explain why, then that was allowed. But I'm recommending we require Title V's. And the most recent one I just mentioned, the person just bought the house and did not have a Title V inspection done. I did ask him to have his closing attorney or bank call me, but I said it would be wrong for me to allow you to soil test, even if your engineer said it's a cesspool, with the knowledge that you bought a house and you don't meet Title V requirements, because you can't transfer a property with a whole new owner, not family member or anything, without the Title V. So he said it was self-financing, but there's no law that says if you self-finance, you don't need a Title V. So my recommendation to the board is that from this point on, if you're going to be testing out of season, you need to have a Title V inspection to prove it's failed or to prove it's accessible. I think it will solve a lot of headaches down the road.
It seems reasonable to me. Any concerns for other members of the board?
Nope, sounds good.
Sounds perfect.
I would ask for a vote then, if the board don't mind.
And so do I have a motion to require a Title V inspection prior to the approval of out-of-season soil testing? Does that sound right to you, Mark?
Perfect.
Perfect. All right, I've got a motion.
So moved. Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Daryl, I.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, you're up.
Oh, Lisa, I.
Rebecca, you're up.
Sorry, I was muted. Rebecca, I.
Matt Vitale, aye.
Okay.
Thanks for raising the issue, Mark.
Okay.
You're welcome.
And I think I see Kitty on, and I just want to get inside. Kitty, is there any topic you're most interested in, or is it really the agenda setting for 7:21 that's kept you up on the edge of your seat till 10 o'clock at night?
How about COVID-19?
I was basically looking for a number 4 under other business, what the discussion was going to be, if there was any.
For the public water supplies.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So, but you
right.
just go in order. I'm fine.
I could also, no, we'll jump to that, but I will do a little COVID-19 update. So there've been some issues, and hopefully I won't drop off again. Let's see. There've been some issues around the community room at Woodhaven again. I mean, certainly, Kitty, as things go along, we're interested in supporting what your committee and then the Woodhaven management and the residents at Woodhaven are interested in. And I think I'm a little concerned about, as I wrote in the email, some interpretations about the exhaust fan over the stove being sufficient for adequately ventilating that room, and that there's no problem. So again, be happy to talk to you more about that. And if there's anyone else on the board interested in that topic, certainly join in. But again, we'll kind of let your committee and Woodhaven drive that.
And you saw the other idea of putting an exhaust fan in the room itself that would exhaust out, as I understand it.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see that they were planning to add something. I saw that they were claiming that the one over the stove was, that there was one already there because of the one over the stove.
Right, but I understand, what I understood with further discussion was that it was also suggested that another fan be put in the room that would exhaust out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't see that then.
Okay, I thought that was part of what I sent you. So anyway, it will be on our agenda for the 15th.
Yeah, and then exhausting out has to be balanced by bringing in fresh air. And if they're just exhausting, all they're going to be doing is trying to pull against, whatever air could slip underneath the doors or around the doors and windows. So it does need a decent fresh air intake.
Fine. So I think we'll have to have this designed to get it to work, get it acceptable.
Yeah.
Okay. This thing grows and grows. I thank you again for all you.
And air management is not as easy as it seems.
No, I understand that.
If we go down, if we go down to the public water suppliers consumer confidence reports, let me bring one of those up. Let's do, they're all a little similar. So for folks who haven't seen this, Kitty, have you ever seen these before for Woodhaven?
I may have, but I don't right now remember seeing them.
Yeah, okay. So this would be the thing that goes into Mass DEP, and it's for public water supplies. It's part of routine reporting that's required.
Mhm.
Sometimes this one's a little different in that this is really focused on this cross connection education. And what that's saying is they don't want people to do work within a building and erroneously connect, somehow have a sewage pipe connect to the water supply pipe in a way, and that would be the cross connection between contaminated and clean water, in a way
Okay.
that if you weren't drawing the clean water into the building, oops, maybe some of the contaminated water could flow back out that same pipe and contaminate the well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the general gist of that part of this. And so it's just saying that, you know, you've given some information to people to that effect, just to say, please don't do it yourself on plumbing, really, because it poses a risk.
Now, who
And then-
prepares this
So this is all
report?
perfunctory. I'm guessing that Whitewater prepared it on the town's
Okay.
behalf.
Okay.
At least I hope they did, because I don't think, I mean, I've had to fill this out for clients, but I don't know that there's anybody else in town who's necessarily done that. So Whitewater often does reports for its clients.
Okay.
And then the next piece, though, is a report that is on generally the water quality. So for all public water supplies, big and small, this is what should be sent out to anyone who's connected to that water supply. So in this case, I'm assuming that they've delivered this to the residents of Woodhaven. I don't know exactly what their distribution method is. It could also be posting on a, say, a board somewhere within the complex. And it just describes things about the water supply. Here it tells, you know, how deep it is, protected activity around the wells, some regulatory information, a little bit of health. It's kind of an overview of various aspects of the system. Talks about, right, here's some treatment that we've done and why, who to call for questions. So there's Whitewater.
And there's Whitewater. Okay. Good.
Yeah. They are the management firm, and they have to have certified operators who come in and just check on the system periodically. And they also take the samples that are then analyzed according to a schedule that's set by Mass DEP.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they are required to present the results. So since they're taking lots of these, so for coliform, it's monthly. Lead and copper can be, I think it's often quarterly, but it really depends on how things have gone over the years, and then DEP will set what they think is an appropriate level of testing, frequency of testing for the particular thing based on past results and size of the system and complexity of the system. So 90th percentile means that 90% of the samples are falling at or below this level. Action levels for these things, it's not an absolute, you can't drink it. It's just that, gee, if you hit 15, we want you to start taking measures to try to reduce the lead. Same thing with copper. And then here's more testing that goes on and what the results are. So the MCL is the maximum contaminant level. And so you can compare the highest detected value to these values and see how you're doing. And so things look good, all well below. So we have a sodium is high, but it tends to be in downtown. The goal is to have around 20. It's not an absolute standard, and there are all sorts of analyses of, if you ate salty French fries every day, you're going to far exceed what you're going to get from water. So it's just a matter of people knowing how it fits into their overall diet. So that one's a little trickier. And then a few other contaminants. And then there might be some years where they're testing for other contaminants, but the tests aren't required every year. So you're not seeing here volatile organic contaminants, or perchlorate is one that gets periodically tested.
Unfortunately, I'm not a
Sometimes
scientist, so
arsenic.
this is over my head.
Yeah.
But
So
anyway,
anyway, so that's the general gist. And hopefully, as I said, hopefully this got mailed to everyone in Woodhaven.
well, there's where it got mailed to. And so I'm
here.
sure that if, yes, because they are asking to contact Claire if they have any questions.
Mhm.
So I don't remember seeing this report in all these beautiful colors. So I may have,
Oh, okay.
But if, could Ellen just email me this report tomorrow?
Yeah, sure.
That would be very
I
helpful.
think so. Ellen?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and I'll follow up on our end, but I think we get a different, it's not in this beautiful color situation, what has been presented to us. But I believe we're tested every 1 or 2 months. And Claire is she seems to find the numbers if she thinks they're getting too high and asks the questions. So, but I appreciate your taking the time.
She's
to go
probably
over
getting
this.
them. Sure.
Yes.
She's probably getting the monthly lab reports, and that's why they're not, this is meant to be a once a year overview for people.
Okay.
Who are drinking the water. Even Boston, Cambridge do this kind of thing. Of course, they're completely different systems, and they're going to be talking about the chlorination and improvements to the pipes and distribution systems, but every public water supply do it.
Well, I think it's important that we have this information,
Okay.
and I thank you for dissecting it for me. So,
And then the others are similar for the fields in Leland.
and then, well, now,
All right.
like 59 North Main, will that come under this kind of reporting going forward?
59 North Main aimed to have 24 people instead of, once they hit 25, this is mandatory.
Okay.
So they very cleverly kept it below, which is a shame because it's a big system that it would make sense, but alas, no. Same with Abbey Road, also aimed for 24 people rather than 25.
And then the one down on Whitney Street, that same idea?
Whitney Street, they put in individual wells for every home there.
Okay.
And then a combined wastewater treatment system. And originally, the fields at Sherborn was going to put in 10 wells, each serving 24 or less people. And then I think, maybe because there was concern about what all of the analyses seem to show about what might happen to those wells, they put in a big public water supply and it gets tested all the time. So that was a good outcome. That the early studies, including their own, were fairly dire about potential impacts on groundwater.
Yeah.
Daryl, I just want to be mindful of time because I am 6 minutes away from
Yeah.
picking a pumpkin.
Okay. I thank
Yep.
you and I will sign
So,
off on that.
Okay,
Thanks
Thank
so
you,
much,
Daryl.
Pete. Have a good night.
Right.
okay. All right, is the information in order for FP King Excavating of Dover for their
Yes.
permit? Okay, and they've been, oh, it's a renewal, so we're already familiar. So do we have a motion to approve the disposal works installer permit for them?
So moved.
Second,
Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Aye.
And this is conditional to a pre-construction conference, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye.
Okay, and then we have the invoice from the Walpole Natick or Natick Walpole VNA. June, do we have a
This is the June.
motion for approval?
This is the June COVID invoice. They did reduce it when I questioned the amount that was originally received. And they did tell me that this will be the last COVID invoice now. That we will,
Okay.
going
So
forward.
do we have a motion for, oh, okay,
contract.
sorry.
So moved, and I would also just comment, I think we got wonderful support both from Natick and Walpole VNA and from Ellen over the course of all this. Like, it really was every day.
Yep, yep, worth every penny for everybody. All right, I'll second. Daryl, aye.
Matt Beavers, aye.
Lisa, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Matt Vitale, aye.
And agenda items. But we don't have to do that now. You could always just email Ellen if you think of things. Reasonable?
Ellen, I've just been charged by the other person who lives in my house with confirming that the ice cream permits are on the.
Yeah, I don't know why,
Oh.
but Tom, those two, for that, Tom told me to put them on the July 21st agenda.
I think that's totally fine.
Yeah,
I was charged with double checking.
yes, they are both on for July 21st.
Perfect. That was the extent of my addition to the agenda. And then do we also have, is that the discussion with the Dover Board of Health also? Is that the July 21st one?
Yes.
Okay. That's it for me.
Okay, so if it's okay, we can adjourn the meeting, and I'd like to thank whoever, Jeff and Courtney, for being able to somehow carry the meeting.
I don't know. You can thank the fire department. During the course of this meeting, they had 4 fires in Sherborn.
Oh,
From lightning strikes?
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah, some were house fires. And then they've just got them all out and got a mutual aid call into Natick.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Well, on that cheerful note, everybody,
Yeah.
Good meeting, though. Thanks, guys.
have a good night.
Okay. Good night.
Ciao.
Right.